On this episode of the DTVC podcast, Jon Cross from After Movie Diner is on. We'll be talking about T-Force, the PM Entertainment classic. A lot of fun conversation there. We do make reference to a couple times that I'm on his podcast where we discuss Hologram Man and then Pure Danger. So keep an eye on socials for when those episodes release from him, because I'll include those as well. But this is a standalone episode, so don't worry if you feel like you're missing anything when we talk about those other ones there. Yeah, just fun to discuss some PM Entertainment, so you always got to love that. And then next week, we've got Ty from Comeuppance on for his monthly hit. We'll be doing Alec Baldwin on the Skids, so we look at 97 Minutes and Crescent City. So look out for that next week. And then in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be looking at The Baby in the Basket with the film's creators, screenwriter Tom Joliffe, who we've had on the podcast before, and then Nathan Shepka, who we did have both of them on about 2 years ago almost at this point, when they were first conceiving of the film and doing the Indiegogo. So we're getting the word out on the Indiegogo campaign at that time. Well, the movie's finished now. And so part of the reason why Ty is going earlier this month than he usually does is that the film, The Baby in the Basket, is coming out on February 17th in the US and the UK. So posting the episode on February 11th coincides closer to the start date of that. So that's why Ty is going earlier. I kind of switched those two just so that coincides better there. So look out for that one in 2 weeks' time. And we do have the rest of the month scheduled. So it's just a matter of getting those recordings in. I know I talked about, I sort of teased an episode that I was doing with my friends on the film Bad Taste. That one's going to get pushed back a little bit later. So look for that one probably more in March. But I'll keep you posted on that as well. And then we've got DTVC Extra. Still no timeline on when I might bring that back. But I do have some extra content for you as far as the podcast goes this Thursday, because so you may remember, it's sort of one of the ongoing sagas of the podcast, right? Was that in 2015 we were hosting the pod on TalkShoe, and they had a server meltdown, and we lost all the 2014 episodes. And I've been slowly trying to kind of get those edited and reposted back on there. Well, there were 2 episodes in August of 2014 that Jamie, my co-host at the time, she did with Jon Cross, who's going to be on tonight, while I was getting married. So August 20th and August 27th, because I got married on August 24th. So those 2 episodes, I couldn't find them on my computer anywhere. I didn't know where they were. And John actually mentioned the other day while we were chatting about some other stuff, and I told him about that I couldn't find them. I didn't know where they were. And he's like, well, I might have them somewhere. And sure enough, he had them, and he sent them over to me. So Thursday, we're going to post the one that would have been on August 27th, which I believe covers Imbrug, that film there. And then after that, we'll do the week after, or maybe sometime, maybe in that range. The other film they did was Bad Milo. So we'll get those up probably in the next couple weeks or so here. But look Thursday for at least one of those ones. We'll post that. And then, I think after that, I think there's like 9 more episodes. I think those are episodes 10 and 11 that we'll be posting. So I think there's like another 9 that still need to get posted there. The thing with those other 9 is that the audio quality isn't always the best for some of them. So like, for example, there was one where Ty and Brett from Comeuppance, I think it was their first time on a podcast. They were on, we talked about the Dolph movie Ambushed. And there's an issue with the sound on that where when I ask them a question, when they answer it, it sounds really faint, and then there's a delay, and then the full audio comes in of their sound. But because of that delay, when I start talking, I talk over them. And it can be a little bit difficult to listen to, so I'm not sure. I don't know how I would clean that up. So, if somebody listening knows more about audio engineering and knows maybe how I could fix something like that, especially if I could just fix it on Audacity, which I don't think I can. But because of that, I may not post those. So depending on what the quality is of those ones. In some cases, it's just a matter of the fact that, when we recorded that time, I think it was my audio, I think her audio was good quality and mine was really faint, I think is what it was. And I can level out the audios a little bit better now. I've got some techniques for that works better. So but unfortunately if it's more complicated than that, I might not be able to fix it. But at some point we'll try to get as many of those other 9 as well uploaded, so you get them all. And again, you probably have to keep an eye out on socials for that, because when I post those ones, I post them with the original posting date. So they're going to kind of come up at the bottom of the list of all the podcasts. So I don't think if you're subscribed that it gives you a notification that a new episode has been released. I'm not sure how that works. So keep an eye on socials for those old episodes, depending on how many more of those I do after these 2 that John sent over to me. So really great, though, that he had those, because I had all the other ones, but I couldn't find those 2 that they did while I was away. So they have the distinction of being the only 2 episodes all time that I wasn't in any way, shape, or form. So all the other episodes, you hear me talking at some point. So it's kind of unique there. I don't know if I ever took a week off, if I was ever away or anything like that, if I'd have a guest host in like that again. Because again, what it was, Jamie being a host of the show as well. So it was kind of like she could take over while I was out, and then John offered to co-host with her for those. So they're really fun episodes. And like I said, keep an eye out for the first one of those on Thursday of this week. And again, watch for socials where you'll get more information there. Yeah, and then in terms of the site, looking to do Don't Mess with Grandma, the Michael Jai White film. I think it's his newest movie. And we haven't gotten Michael Jai White. I was going to say we haven't gotten him on the site in a while, but we did get him recently, right? Because we had him on with Scott Adkins in One More Shot, which was one that we've also covered on the podcast. So it's not like we haven't done him at all, but it's been a little bit. And then after that, I'm going to try to get Armed Response, Wesley Snipes film, up. So look out for those coming up there. And then in terms of the alphabetical archive project that I'm working on, so trying to get that alphabetical archive on the Letterboxd site, I think I'm close to 800 movies done. So I think we got like another 500 to go. So I think we've made it through the letter M at this point. Again, keep an eye out on socials for that. I'll announce once that's fully up and ready to go. Kind of an exciting project. It's kind of fun. There are interesting the movies that aren't available on Letterboxd. For example, Maximum Potential, the Dolph Lundgren movie, which I didn't know. I went to IMDb. I didn't know I'm the only person to ever review the only site to review Maximum Potential. But it's not on Letterboxd. So so if you look at Dolph, my list of Dolph movies, I think that explains why the Dolph tags don't exactly add up correctly to the DTVC tags that I have. I know there were Dolph has an extra tag because I did the Van Damme Film Festival episode or post. I think it was my 400th post was a Van Damme Film Fest, and of course that would involve Dolph, so he got tagged for that, from Universal Soldier. But then I guess Maximum Potential would be one that's not on Letterboxd. So when I list all the movies that I've seen of Dolph's on Letterboxd, that's why the numbers weren't adding up properly to what's on there. So it's interesting some of the movies that aren't showing up on Letterboxd. So it's going to be as comprehensive as possible, but there are going to be some movies that aren't on Letterboxd right now that won't be on that list. So it won't quite add up to the full almost 1,300. We're at 1,295 posts at this point. So 5 more to go, and then we'll get to 1,300. So and of course that 1,300 one's going to be the movie that gets Don the Dragon Wilson into the 40 club. So he's sitting at 39 now. He's ready to go. So I think it'll be the movie we'll do the movie Diamond Cartel for that. So we'll see what happens. And then in terms of stuff I've been doing for other sites, again, Jon Cross After Movie Diner, he should be posting pretty soon. It was a twofer of Tough Guys Don't Dance and then Hologram Man. So keep an eye out for that. And then recently he also posted, I think it was Troll and Desert Heat. Those are ones that we did as well. So check out After Movie Diner and see. But I've been on there. Again, I try to share them on my site as well, or on my socials as well, so you can see them there too. And then Forgotten Filmcast. I was on there recently with Todd Liebenow talking about Maximum Risk, the Van Damme film with Natasha Henstridge. So he just released that, I think, on Monday. So take a look. Keep an eye out for that. Again, I'll probably share it on social as well. Once he posts it on his Facebook, I'll share it to mine. But those were a lot of fun to do those there. I always enjoy that. It's been a little while since I've been on Forgotten Filmcast, but I always love being on that. That's a great show, and one that you should be subscribed to, because for sure it's a ton of fun there. I think that's everything. Of course, my newest book, Nadia and Aiden, always appreciate if people want to pick that one up. Available on Kindle, Kindle Unlimited, and paperback. The link is in the podcast description. One thing you'll notice about this episode is that there's a point in the episode when John and I were recording where we took a break, but it wasn't like a we'll be right back kind of break. It was just sort of off the cuff that we did it, and I just sort of stopped the recording and then started a new recording after that. But what I decided to do was add in some bumper music and put my book ad in that bumper music. So I did put credits for the bumper music in the podcast description. So I'm using a site called Upbeat, UPP Beat. They do royalty-free music where you can subscribe like, I don't know, you can do like three free downloads a month if you do the free program, or you can pay for a more premium package. And you just got to credit the author, or or credit the creator, which I did here. You can check in the podcast description. I believe the artist is Soundroll, and the song's called Vacation Beat. But yeah, I just chopped off the first 4 seconds of that song and I'm using it for the bumper to go to commercial. So you'll hear a little bumper here at some point. You'll hear the ad for my book, and then it'll go in there. So it's kind of interesting. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how I use that further, using using some royalty-free music like that. Again, I can do 3 downloads a month. I mean, I can't imagine I'm going to do more than 3 downloads a month. But yeah, we'll see if maybe I can add some more music to certain places here in the podcast. So trying to get a little bit better with the editing and all that. But yeah, I guess I'm over 10 minutes here, and I think this episode's a little bit on the longer side anyway, so I probably should stop rambling, and we should have Jon Cross, who's going to be chatting with us in a little bit here, but from Miss Lady's Plumbing Fixtures, his band. He did our theme song here, so we'll listen to the theme song, and then when we come back, Jon and I are going to talk about T-Force. Welcome back to the DTVC podcast. As always, this is Matt here, and I am joined once again by a very special guest from After Movie Diner. I was going to say something funny about how I'm on your podcast and you're on mine, and I kind of froze there. So, welcome back, Jon Cross from After Movie Diner.
Yes, indeed. In fact, we are sort of going back and forth this month. We're kind of doing what Gary and I have been doing with the Cinema Beef podcast, because I've been going back and forth with him, doing some Michael Pare joints, which has been lots of fun as a DTV connoisseur. I'm sure you yourself have delved into the world of Pare, and I've been having a wonderful time doing so. And he's another one, and I've said this on almost every podcast, but like, you start to do a deep dive, and as long as you pay attention, like, I always think to myself, anywhere around, I tend not to go under like 4 out of 10 on IMDb. Like, once you start going under 4 out of 10, you tend to start hitting those movies that you're like, all right, no, it's right. Like, this is genuinely not a good movie. But there are some movies in that sort of 4.5 out of 10 up to 6 out of 10 that I would give 10 out of 10. Like, no problem at all. Because, I think you and I have also talked about, like, you and I's taste probably falls in the minority of the people who are voting on IMDb. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was going to say, I was trying to think of the movie we're going to talk about today, at T-Force, like what IMDb gives that one. And I can't even see it.
Gives it a 4.8.
4.8. Yeah. So,
and again, I would give this a high 8 or 9 out of 10.
Yeah, it's right up there. And so I agree with you there that we're kind of we grade on a curve, so to speak, or we have our own, what we like in a movie, I think.
But when I start to do these deep dives, whether it's Wings Hauser, Donald Pleasance, or Michael Pare, I tend to stick above initially. I tend to stick above the kind of 4 out of 10s on IMDb. And even though the last few Pare joints that we've done have actually been hovering around the 4.2, 4.3 kind of thing, I have had nothing but joy watching Pare. So look forward to those podcasts through either the Cinema Beef podcast, which is part of you have to look up Butcher Shop Legion podcasts on Apple to find Cinema Beef, because it's one of many on that one. They have like a one feed, but they put like many shows through that one feed. So you have to look through that, but look that up, because if you're a DTV connoisseur fan, you've got to be a Michael Pare fan. And if you're a Michael Pare fan, check out In the Pare Way, which is what we're calling it.
Yes. Yeah. It's fantastic because the thing about Pare, I think, and one of the things I like about what you guys are doing, for the episodes I've listened to so far, is that modern Pare, he's really just following the Eric Roberts playbook of
Right.
let me just get in, give me a couple pages of script, get me there for a day, give me, 5 figures and I'm out. But like earlier, like 90s, kind of into the early 2000s Pare, he was kind of like the guy we're going to talk about in a little bit, Jack Scalia. He was kind of following the Jack Scalia playbook where
Yeah,
he was
he
more
was
of a
way
leading
more
guy.
Scalia. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And some of those are fantastic.
I
Those
just
movies.
watched Into the Sun with
Yeah.
Anthony Michael Hall. I don't think, I just had it on VHS and I looked at the front cover and then I thought, oh, it's a Top Gun,
Yeah.
Iron Eagle ripoff. That's what I thought
Right.
it was. And I didn't even read the back. I was just like, Pare, Michael Hall, it's 4.3 or whatever on IMDb. I'm in. Let's go watch this movie. I didn't realize it was all about like an actor who wanted to like learn how to be a fighter pilot, but then there's this war going on with like a Middle Eastern country, but they didn't name which Middle Eastern country. So, and then it kind of goes into this weird thing where like Michael Hall's hitting on Pare's woman and Pare's getting all bent out of shape. And I'm like, this is a 10 out of 10. This has everything in it I want. This has, it's fantastic.
Yeah, he's an area that I haven't gotten into as much. Like a lot of times with Pare, a lot of times it would be like with somebody else in the movie, like Lorenzo Lamas or
Right.
Peter Weller, somebody like that, Dennis Hopper, and I would watch it for them and like, okay, Pare's there, it's good. But Pare on his own is just, I mean, he was the standout for me in Virgin Suicides. I love him as the adult Trip Prefontaine when they're in the rehab facility interviewing him. He is fantastic there.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing is that for whatever reason, and I think Scalia is a little like this, but not so much because PM did give their leading men a chance to shine most of the time. They don't crowd them out with sort of unnecessary cameos. The one that sticks out to me, and we'll talk about, is like Maximum Force, where they kind of cram in like Mickey Rooney or someone. You're like, what's he doing in the movie? Anyway, but mostly they let their leading guys be their leading guys. With Pare, or certainly the ones I've watched so far for this series, what is nice is that while I still get a lot of joy out of the Pare, they do tend to flesh his cast out. Certainly these 90s, late 80s, 90s ones that I'm watching, they tend to flesh his cast out with some top tier character actors.
Yeah, and it does. It makes for that era of the direct to video. I think part of the reason why we do this kind of thing is that this era, and like this movie we're going to talk about today is '94, but that era in the kind of as the '80s got into the '90s and really throughout the '90s, it starts to turn a little bit in the 2000s. I guess that's when the big budget companies get into the game, and then you get the Randall Emmetification of the whole thing. And I mean, in England right now they're doing some good stuff. Guys like Jesse V. Johnson, James Nunn. There's some good stuff coming out of England, but in America, the movies you're talking about with Pare, where you've got this fleshed out, these great character actors. Nowadays, those people would get like a page or two a piece in that film, and it would just be a bunch of people you don't really care about or names that it would mostly be like whatever actor was on a 2010s CW drama who has a problematic history because they either were abusive to their spouse or girlfriend or sexual or whatever, and it's like the only job they can get is a Randall Emmett film, and let's just sprinkle in some Bruce Willis or something like that. But that era of the Michael Pare stuff, and I think that's the thing with Pare. It's like when you look at Pare's bio, it's getting to be Eric Roberts-ish. But if you dig deep, if you scroll down and you just kind of page into the 90s, you get some really nice gems. And like you said, you get some actors in those in addition to him that make it really fun.
Right. I mean, one of the first we did was Dragon Fight, which, funnily enough, only gets a 3.2 on IMDb, and I would say it's better than a 3.2. But not only, of course, do you have the obligatory performance and appearance by George Buck Flower, because obviously you have to, but you get other ones that I would also consider fairly obligatory, but always welcome in a B movie. People like Charles Napier and James Hong, and of course the glorious Robert Z'Dar. once you started packing in Hong, Zadar, Napier, Buck Flowers, like Paray can only, shine and be glorious within that combination. Because look, they could all sit around and read the ingredients on a on a health food bar, and I would still, I would still watch that film. How anyone on IMDb, I understand it's not, I'm not saying it's a good movie by any means, but just for that cast alone, to get 3.2 is disappointing. You know what I mean? I feel like I also think it's because, I don't know about you, I don't rate shit on IMDb. I probably should more, because I'd probably skew our films a bit better.
Right. I agree, because you're right. Like a movie like that you're describing, that's a 4 right off the bus.
Just for the cast.
Yeah. And now I'm just tacking on points for that from there. I think, I mean, there's certain rules that I have with these movies that can make it difficult. But for example, yeah, like if the runtime's long, I know one of those Paray ones. I think the one he does with Lamas is like borders on 2 hours. I think it was like one that like Menachem Golem did that was like very like Israeli kind of like anti-Muslim propaganda kind of, because he did a few of those kind of at post canon. I think there's a few of those where you're just like, God, I can't do a $1.52 of this kind of thing. Give me 90 minutes, get me in and out. That's going to get me there. But for the most part, like what you're describing there, a lot of these movies, just for me, just like hitting the play button is 4 stars or 4, for IMDb, it's a 4. And that's really just how far above 4 it goes.
You have Zadar in chainmail wielding a giant sword. You have no dragons, so no one's even sure why it's called Dragon Fight. Right. You've got James Hong being a crooked, side-jumping capitalist. You've got Charles Napier, who's I think he's a shouty police chief, because he's Charles Napier, has to be a shouty police chief. And I think it's probably the largest role that I've seen sort of George Buck Flower do, I think. Doesn't he have a fairly decent role in not Dead End Drive-In, Drive-In Massacre, I think.
I haven't seen that one, but I think you might be right. Yeah,
that George Buck Flower has like a fairly sizable. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll have to look that up. Maybe I'm wrong. I know there's one of those like character actors in Drive-In Massacre that is has more of a role than they normally do.
Yeah. Yeah, because someone like a Napier, because it's funny because you think of a movie like the second Rambo, First Blood Part 2 or whatever, and it's almost like that paradigm should just work all the time, and companies should just use that, where you've got Napier kind of sweating and yelling and doing what he does, and Martin Cove being a jerk, and then your hero, whether it's Stallone or whoever else, just like going through a jungle in the Philippines, or I guess it was Mexico in that film, but in the Philippines, just blowing up huts and just killing things. Like, that's a pretty good, that works pretty well. And granted, yes, unfortunately, Napier's no longer with us, but for the time that he was with us, it's amazing. And a lot of movies were like, yeah, the Rambo formula works. We can get Cove, we can get Napier. We'll just fill in the rest with whoever, Reb Brown or whoever we can get, and get an Italian director to make it.
There's always a Brent Huff hanging around looking for a few crumbs.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, you could probably get Davy to show up for have his Trilby hat collection dry cleaned. He'll show up.
Just give him a carton of Marlboros and make sure the check clears for whatever he's getting paid that day. And Davi is fine. Davi will,
So that's what I'm remembering. Drive-In Massacre was written by George Buck Flower. He actually only has a cameo in it, but he writes it. That's why it was in my head as sort of one of Buck Flower's more prominent things, because Buck Flower kind of is forever an extra. Maybe I'll have one or two lines, but he's forever just the sort of hobo extra. But Dragon Fight, pretty sizable role by Buck Flower. He does spend most of it drunk, but it's entertaining. And yeah, he's obviously in a lot of John Carpenter films.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. When you talk about like the title of the movie being, strange, or it's like Dragon Fight, but there's no dragons in the movie or whatever. And like in the news right now is kind of that situation with the it ends with us, or it ends with whatever or this, I can't remember what it's called, but the movie that Blake Lively did, where the faux feminist, because he wants to get chicks co-star of the film is
well,
she
they're
was suing
suing
him.
each other. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. And it's all
Yeah.
down to the PR departments and blah blah blah
Right.
blah blah. And the funny thing is look, whoever's right, whoever's wrong, whichever side you fall, the whole, considering it's two, essentially, yes, it is two actors and they keep using their names, but essentially it's those two actors suing each other based on their PR company's actions. And so the whole thing has sort of brought a lot of hand rubbing and chin scratching around like PR companies, which is hilarious because the whole thing feels like a horrible PR stunt.
Right. Well, and the thing is that part of the story behind this was that Sony, because I don't know if you remember when the movie came out, it seemed like it was a sort of like nice, flouncy coming of age kind of thing that was, sort of opposite Deadpool and Wolverine. And then you find out that no, it's about domestic violence and abuse and all these things.
Yes.
Well, that's because Sony was trying to pitch it as this flouncy
Yeah.
coming of age kind of thing, as opposed to, sorry, I got some sirens going in the background here, but it's one of those things that for us coming from the DTV world, like that kind of thing does not surprise us at all. I mean, we've got movies like, was it I can't remember the name of it. Will from Exploding Helicopter mentioned it was something like Ring of Steel or something that had like all the brothers and they had their last names across. It was like, instead of
yes, it's like Swayze, Estevez, whatever.
Yeah.
It's
McQueen,
those guys, right?
Yeah.
McQueen.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, but I don't know how many times
if you're believing the poster or the front cover of the DVD, you have never lived. You've never lived. You've never seen. We used to have such like ornate painted covers of violence and breasts and monsters and things, and you'd be like, oh my god, this is going to be the greatest movie ever, and you take it home, put it in, and it's three guys in a warehouse in Iowa hitting each other with cardboard rolls, and you go, all right, I deserved that.
Right, exactly. It's funny. The screenwriter Richard Pierce, who wrote movie Sector
Richard
4,
Pierce, we interviewed him. Yeah, we interviewed him a while ago. Yeah.
Oh, did you? Oh, nice. Okay, excellent. Yeah. So
Dr. Action and the Kick-Ass Kid. When he was doing Sector 8 or whatever it is, Sector 4,
yes,
with
Gruner.
Yes, Gruner, Olivier Gruner. We interviewed him then, and we sort of stayed casual pals on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was on the Comeuppance podcast, and he was kind of telling all these stories about what the production was like with Gruner, how ridiculous he was.
Oh, Gruner, him and Gruner, no, they won't be working together.
Right,
again.
Exactly. But one of the stories he tells.
Also, that's a fucking awful. No offense to his writing, but that movie is fucking awful.
It's a trip.
I'll say this: if you can't shoot at night, or if you can't do day for night properly, don't do it. Period. Right. Like 2/3 of that movie, I remember, were like day for night, and I'm like, I can't even see what's going on.
Right. Or the fact that like the movie is like half training montages. And I remember I posted a review of that on my Facebook, because I did the review and then I did the thing on Facebook, and somebody I think commented and they were on all earnestness about like, oh, I really love the training montages in that. And I was like, really? Okay, all right,
it happens, man. It happens. And it happens to me as well. Like when I go back and watch films that I would have had real problems with, and now I watch them and I have to say I absolutely adore them. Weirdly enough, and it's just to touch on it a little bit, when I was a late teen, early 20s was sort of the height of David Lynch's work. Stuff like Wild at Heart was coming out, then of course Lost Highway, Blue Velvet, those kind of movies, that kind of era that he was working. And I consider those his three best, by the way: Blue Velvet, Wild at Heart, and Lost Highway. They're my three favorites. But I have to say, I definitely went through a phase in college where I was like, oh yeah, I like David Lynch. I had David Lynch posters up, and I would watch David Lynch and so on. But there was a little bit inside of me that was like, oh, you're just telling people that because you want to seem interesting. Right. And actually internally you're a little conflicted about Lynch. You're a little bit like, yeah, I see you, David, but seriously, what the fuck is all this about? Then I grow up a bit. And I actually think I get way less pretentious, I think. I mean, other people might be like, really, John? Fuck no. But seriously, I think I get way more relaxed, way less pretentious. I think I dial into kind of what it means to be middle-aged, dealing with the storm of the world outside, but also finding peace within without sounding too hippie-ish and pretentious myself. But I rewatched a whole ton of David Lynch films recently, obviously because he passed. And I've always thought he was an artistic visionary and a wonderful filmmaker. I think that I was trying to prove something when I was at college, rather than now where I can sit down and watch his films unabated because I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks anymore. I watched Wild at Heart, and then the following evening, my wife and I watched Lost Highway, and those are two. I know it's slightly off the topic, but those are two, just especially as an adult, when you start to actually realize what those films are actually about, while also knowing enough about cinema to see all the references and all the inspiration Lynch is drawing, especially from sort of rockabilly movies of the 50s and 60s and film noir of the 30s and 40s. You can really see kind of where he's pulling some of this stuff from, and it's just there's such a wonderful, heartfelt collage of sex, violence, and comedy.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, for sure. I was joking when I did my review for Duran Duran Upstage, which was the concert film that he directed.
Yes.
I was joking that there's sort of those binaries in Pulp Fiction, like, are you a Beatles man or an Elvis man? I'm an Elvis man. But some of the other ones like that, Wait to Talk or Listen. And I was like, I realized that probably the binary with Lynch is Jim Jarmusch, and I had to come with the terms with the fact that I'm a Jim Jarmusch man, and I think and it's like I respect Lynch. I love a lot of stuff. Again, like some of the movies you were just talking about. I love. I mean, Lost Highway. I mean, watching Robert Loggia beat the crap out of a guy who cuts him off, telling him like, "You're going to read the driving manual." Like, who reads a driving manual? What's he even talking about? But it's just so fantastic, right? Like,
well, because Lost Highway. Give me just 1 second. But I described Lost Highway. I thought this was the best way to describe this ever. Yeah. Bill Pullman goes through a Getty morphosis, and David Lynch screams angrily into the vapid, empty ego of the late 90s via the medium of Dante and the Circles of Hell. Yeah. So I consider that David, I think Loggia in that scene is the avatar for Lynch in that moment. I think that's what Lynch wants to scream at drivers as he's driving along. And so I figure that whole movie is, as I said, he screams angrily. He's not quite old man yet, but he's definitely middle-aged. And he's screaming angrily into the vapid, empty ego of the late 90s. And I think that's exactly what that movie's about. And Matt, watching it again, it was pure wonder. I loved every minute of it, and watching it with my wife especially was fantastic, because we don't always get to watch a lot of movies together. So when we do, it's a real special moment. So why not watch one where every other minute Patricia Arquette is butt-ass naked? She spends almost all of that movie naked. And I have to say, if it wasn't for the fact that Arquette, Watts, and Dern have been so just utterly glowing in their both pre-Lynch passing and post-Lynch passing commentary, if you just took the pulse of those three movies, Blue Velvet, Wild at Heart, and Lost Highway, you would think or not be surprised if some predatory behavior on Lynch's part came out post-death. Like people, wow, he used to fuck dogs or something, whatever, like Eraserhead is really about some mutant baby that he had when he had sex with an Alsatian. You could imagine, though, because of all the nudity, especially violent nudity that are in those three movies, that one of them would have been like, well, actually, David was a little awkward and handsy on set. Nothing at all. It has been nothing but joy and wonder. And I have to say, considering what happened on Monday, having the few days preceding it be nothing but Lynch on my timeline, and really heartwarming Lynch. Really suddenly he was on a level of when Bowie died. Because I think when like people use Bowie's death as like this seismic cultural shift.
Yeah.
Because I think, you go along being this quiet Bowie fan, and occasionally he releases an album, there's a little bit of hoopla, but in general, people aren't like Bowie, right?
Right.
Same with Lynch. Like nobody's talking about him. He releases a movie, there's a lot of like hoopla, and then he kind of goes back underground, and people just kind of get on with it. So that even if you've always been a Bowie fan, or if you've always held Lynch dear, and you go, well, I can't assume everyone else does because they're weird or they're outsider artists or they're surreal or whatever it is. When they die, and there is just such a universal outpouring, not of grief, but of just benevolent love and artistic integrity, you sort of go, okay, there's a little hope that you derive hope from that. You know what I mean? Because they didn't have to celebrate Lynch's, not celebrate, but celebrate Lynch's life after he passed. Lynch could have died, and everyone just go, "Oh, weirdo director died." Right. We would be sad, but in general, the world would just move on. My feed on every social platform and Kim's feed and everything was nothing but Lynch for 2 straight days. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I could say for me too, because two of my favorite things are baseball and movies, and so Bob Uecker passed away the same day, right. I think.
Yes,
so that was my feed was people celebrating Uecker, people celebrating Lynch, and it was one of those things where I had like just a direct to video movie that I'd cover on the podcast, ready to review, King of Killers, with Frank Grillo and Alain Moussi from, that was what I was going to do, and I was like, no, I got to do something for Lynch, and so I noticed like Inland Empire would have counted. Based on my rules, because it made like 10 grand in the theater or something like that. So I could have reviewed that one, but or maybe it made 100 grand. But anyways, it's less than like the 3 or 4 million that I call DTV. But when I saw that he did a Duran Duran concert movie and it was on Tubi, I was like, this has to be the one I do, and it was so fantastic. I mean, it was exactly what I would want a Duran Duran concert video in the 2010s directed by Lynch to be, which I never knew. I wanted that. I never would have known. But if you had said to me,
who knew Duran Duran were cool? But ever since like the last 20 years, Duran Duran have been cool. Like when I was a kid and my sister was playing Duran Duran, I'm like, it's cute and all, but it'll never stick around. Now it sounds like fucking Chopin compared to the shit we get today.
Well, I've always thought they were like I've always thought like Simon Le Bon, Nick Rhodes, and John Taylor. They've always been like the coolest. But like I remember the Wedding album, right, with Come Undone and Ordinary World, especially Ordinary World. We have like the woman with I don't know if you had the same video in England that we had in the US, where it was like there was the woman at the wedding who had like the big huge bow on. Oh, whoops! I'm just not gonna lamp over here, but trying to explain this bow. But like you got like Le Bon with like kind of a poofy shirt and everything, and it was like the whole thing just like they just look like the coolest people ever. I was just like I could spend all day hanging out with them. And then like I remember John Taylor, his wife did like Juicy Couture. Yeah. And I guess like that was like remember that period where like women were wearing those like kind of the velour pants and stuff like that Juicy was making.
Yeah, on the butt,
right. And I guess like John Taylor's like, why don't you make stuff like that for guys? And she was like, yeah, I guess we could make stuff like that for guys. And it's like, yeah, John Taylor can wear stuff because John Taylor can wear whatever and it's cool. He's John Taylor.
If I wore it, if I suddenly went out of my house and went down the pub and went in with all these like tree fellas and construction guys and garbage men and cops and all the people who hang out at my local bar, and I walk in a pair of Juicy sweat.
Right, exactly.
No, it ain't fucking happening. I'm sorry.
No.
And I'm happy with my sexuality, but I ain't fucking doing it.
No, you're not no, John Taylor he can wear, it's totally. I mean, it was like, and watching them, I mean, they were in
Rod Stewart as well. Rod Stewart gets away with it, and I don't understand why, because he looks like a character out of Labyrinth. He looks like a Henson puppet and has done for like 60 years.
Yeah, the craziest thing in music, I think, was that period. You had that period in like the mid to late 80s where like 60s and 70s acts were putting out pop hits.
Yeah.
And Rod Stewart having that string of pop hits. My most recent book, Naughty and Aiden, that I wrote, the characters, they're kind of like doing like a couch surfing thing as they're kind of going through the country. And they the male, the brother of the twins, they're staying with this woman who owns a yarn shop, and it turns out there's other stuff going on there. But he sees her in the middle of the night watching this Rod Stewart video for "My Heart Can't Tell You No," where he's wearing like this mint suit with like polka dots, and all this kind of crazy. The outfits in that video, if you ever watch that video, it's kind of a trip. But he's like inspired. He like goes to the thrift store, just starts dressing like Rod Stewart from that video.
Amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, Rod Stewart, when you watch those videos from those late 80s where he's hooking up with women who are like a good 30 years younger than him, but he's trying to look the part of like, I was born in 1965. And it's like, you weren't born in 1965, you were born in 1945, but that's okay.
I don't know, like if I said Jerry Anderson and like Thunderbirds puppets, do you know who I'm talking about?
I do. Yeah.
So Jerry Anderson, much like Gene Roddenberry did with live action, Jerry Anderson had like Thunderbirds, which was his main show, but then he had these like other shows.
Yeah.
And one of his other shows was called Terrorhawks. If I say Terrorhawks, can you picture it in your head? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The like excessively wrinkly, warty woman with the enormous nose and the spike of white hair. And I'm just like, that's Rod Stewart. Like if someone went, this is Rod Stewart's life story told in marionette puppetry, and not this is a sci-fi show for kids called Terrorhawks. If someone just said this is Rod Stewart's life story, I'd believe it instantly. Because she looked like the evil witch puppet looked like Rod Stewart.
Yeah. I mean, one of the crazy facts about him is that for a time, he was second only to Madonna for having like the most videos on MTV. Like I think Madonna had like 40 something, and he had like in the 30s.
Right.
And
hasn't he sold a stupid amount of records?
Yeah.
Somewhere where I'm like, all he does is sing other people's songs.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I think he's starting like he's right now doing like kind of like your swinger standard kind of standard and swing kind of move, like he does that kind of stuff now. But yeah, I don't think he didn't like he would always talk about who wrote the songs. Like I think he had a hit in the 90s that Tom Petty had wrote for him.
Tom Waits. He did Downtown Train. Which was a Tom Waits song. Well, I see you tonight. That one.
Exactly. Yeah, that was that one. But yeah, there was a Tom Petty one. It was something about like, I don't know, a woman like named Ramona or something like that. But it was like a later hit that he had.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
Rod Stewart to me in music is like Dudley Moore in movies. The fact that like Dudley Moore was a sex symbol for like 6 movies, not for long, but for like 6 movies or whatever. It was like cheeky Uncle Dudley's coming to steal your 6 foot tall, statuesque, large chested, Rubenesque buttocked Bo Derek. Right, and he's just like, I'm going to be running through the sand. It's like, you are a 3'2", club-footed cave troll, and you're running along the seafront with a fucking Statue of Liberty born to life that is Bo Derek. And we're meant to believe this fucking nonsense.
I wonder if that's what happened. I wonder if Dudley Moore paved the way, especially here in America. It was like Dudley Moore and maybe Roger Moore, because Roger Moore was kind of up there doing those Bond movies in the early 80s where he was like...
Yes, but Roger Moore was sexy.
He was still sexy. That's a good point. I mean, Dudley
Even
Moore,
though he was a full balloon-faced, yellow toupee, hiding the gut behind several layers of tall-waisted pants. Even though he was that, Roger Moore, if someone said, my 23-year-old daughter just had a night of passion with Roger Moore, you'd go, that's fine. Right. I accept it. But if your 40-year-old average looking sister came home and went, this is my husband, and either Dudley Moore or Rod Stewart were standing there, you would scream and go, put that cave troll back underground where they belong. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing.
Well, Rod Stewart married Rachel Hunter, who was like one of the top models at that time.
Fucking baffling.
Yeah, she was just like, okay. I guess he was a soccer player, right, or football player. So I guess like maybe he had some sort of athletic ability or athletic prowess.
But he's all like his skin is all like wrinkly and sinewy. Like it's how there are sort of 2 versions of like the fit old man.
Yeah.
There's either the one that was sort of very roided up when they were young and now they're old and it still looks okay, but it also kind of looks like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Right.
And it looks like if you accidentally prick them with a pin, they would burst, showering the bar in rotten meat.
Yes.
That's what they look like. Or you get like the old sinewy muscular man where they've got no fat. They lost all their body fat in when they turned 65, and since then everything apart from their bones and skin have been wearing away. So all they are just flesh sacks hanging on a coat hanger skeleton.
Right.
And he's one of those. Rod Stewart's one of those because he played soccer his whole life.
And he was also, I believe, like they had a pair of his jeans either at like the Hard Rock Cafe or something like that, where he had like a 27 waist. Like in the 80s, like when he was in his 40s. Like I'm in my 40s now.
Yeah.
I can barely manage like a 34, and that's like pushing it. Like it's got to be like that kind of like old man stretch.
I'm 30. I start at 36.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at. Yeah, it's like and like the idea of a 27 waist in my 40s. Like I think that was what I was like when I was 16. I think I was a 27 waist. Like maybe.
But he's also, you could roll Rod Stewart up, put him in a fairly decent sized knapsack. Like there's only 4 of the man, and almost half a foot of that is fucking hair.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, for people listening, go on to YouTube.
Yeah, go on to YouTube and look up Rod Stewart, Rachel Hunter, and just see what comes up.
No, because what you're going to get is I don't remember, there was a press conference they did for something where she just gave him a foot massage. Like he took his shoe that was like barefoot, and it was like this. People were like, that was like the most disgusting thing ever. Like how was this allowed to happen? Maybe that's why she was attractive. He had the power to be able to do that.
Can you imagine a world like people? If anyone under 30 is listening to this, you will not be able to imagine a world where a 98-year-old flesh skeleton cave troll can manage to marry and have his foot massaged live on television by a fucking warrior woman, like one of the Amazonian woman, fucking statuesque, fucking David da Vinci, hot mama pajama, right? And she is rubbing the feet of like.
Right, for the whole world to see in the middle of this press conference.
Like
that's
you know when you half pull off a sock and your sock is just sort of hanging there.
Right.
That's how his foot felt. It felt like she was massaging an empty sock of flesh, and that was allowed to happen on TV. In fact, you'd be hard pressed to find anyone but me and Matt even talking about it. It's not even a meme.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. I mean, I think in the early 2000s, I think they had they had kids. I think one of their daughters was trying to hang out in like the Paris Hilton set, and I don't think anybody cared. I think they were just like, okay, like
who are you?
Yeah,
I'm the kid of Rod Stewart.
Yeah. All right. Your dad plays casinos now here in the United States, and he puts out albums of standards where he's covering like I Only Have Eyes for You and like the swing version or whatever. And it's like that's what your dad does now. Yes, in the past he did stuff, right? But yeah, I mean in the 80s, in the late 80s, there were a lot of these ones. I mean, George Harrison had a big hit with, I Got My Mind Set on You. I mean, like all these guys. But Rod Stewart was the one that like he somehow rode this wave. And I don't even think he got it. He was I
think if they make a biopic, they should cast Warwick Davis. I think Warwick Davis is Rod Stewart in Do You Think I'm Sexy? And it's Warwick Davis, and they haven't even like given him a good hairpiece. They've found like a fright wig from a closed down Spirit Halloween, and they've just like super glued it to his head.
Right.
And then they just follow Warwick Davis about, and he just fucks models and
exactly.
Sings songs in mint green shiny suits. Yeah, I think I would watch that. I would watch that. Just like Robbie
see
Williams just did the CGI monkey biopic, which flopped horribly.
Right.
I would watch Warwick Davis as Rod Stewart.
That would be. And I would love it if they set it up the way they set up like the Freddie Mercury biopic or the Elton John, where it's like the flashing and like the like the shots of being on stage, and it's like and there's Warwick Davis like from the 70s and like spandex pants doing "If You Think I'm Sexy." It is like
with a closed down, not even a recent Spirit Halloween, like a closed down, never to reopen Spirit Halloween from 5 years ago wig that they've just pulled out of a plastic bag. Just super glued to Warwick Davis.
It'd be like one of those ones where those on cop shows when they made the female cops do a Vice episode, and they would have that horrible spiky wig. That
Matt, I get you so well. And you get me so well. You know how to explain exactly what I mean. When a long running cop show does the lead woman has to go undercover as a prostitute, and even though it's the late 90s, their idea of what a prostitute is still somewhere around 1982, so they all have the fucking ridiculous wigs, and you see them dressed up like they've got like a blue hiked up leatherette skirt, and they're like walking down the street backlit by some neon, and it's meant to be like the ooh wolf whistle va va voom moment, and really you just burst out laughing because you're like, that's the hair they think that in 1998 Vice undercover prostitutes would wear.
Yeah, and of course you always get that scene with like the jerk. Like, I don't want to say Christopher Maloney because he's much more fun on SVU, but that kind of person who's doing a bad Christopher Maloney type person has to make the horrible sexist comments that barely would fly nowadays.
Because it's back from the 90s. Right. It would be a young Bobby Cannavale. Like, that's who it would be. It would be like an actor who now plays jerks, but you love how they play jerks, like they're in gangster movies and HBO Max TV series. Like Bobby Cannavale is, he is the be all and end all of acting as far as America has decided. I don't know why, but that's now the case. He can do comedy, he can do drama, he can do mean, he can do loving. Bobby Cannavale can do every kind of, Italian male kind of character actor that you want him to do. And he can even shout like Pacino. So don't worry, Cannavale has got this shit under lockdown. But back then, it would be like a young Cannavale or a young Vincent D'Onofrio or someone like that. You know what I mean? And they would be, or a Charles Napier. It's one or the other.
right. Napier would do it from the older growth, and then
police chief.
But Cannavale, like he lived in that ether. I mean, one of the earliest things I remember when I was living with some friends in Bangor in the summer of 2006, and we got the CBC channel, and they were playing some movie with him from I think like the late 90s, early 2000s. The only thing I remember him saying is he was eating something. He was like, "This is fucking delicious," and it was like so like early Cannavale. Like that's the kind of like hitting on his partner who's dressed up for the Vice role. And she's like it's like one of those things where like you feel horrible for her that she's got to do it, and you hope that off stage he's just like saying like I'm just gonna be as sleazy as possible, but it's just how I'm gonna be.
Finally looking good, McGinty, or whatever. Or like finally looking hot, McGinty.
Right, exactly.
There's someone I'd take out for a seafood dinner.
Exactly.
Be Cannavale it up to the max.
Clean up nice. And she's just like, shut up. I'm only doing, just get this over with, kind of thing, and like, They might even do a joke where she has trouble walking in heels, maybe. Like, is it,
right? Like Miss Congeniality. We're basically now describing Miss Congeniality, except it's the 80s porno version of Miss Congeniality, not the, I have to go undercover as a beauty pageant and have lots of jokes about the fact that we're all just going to stand around and pretend that Sandra Bullock isn't attractive, whether she has her hair up in glasses or her hair down and no glasses. She's always attractive. To try and pretend otherwise is fucking ludicrous. Right. Anyway.
Yes, right. No, exactly. Yeah, that's the hair. I wonder if maybe you just need Bobby Cannavale in the just to like make that comment to Warwick Davis while he's performing on stage as Rod Stewart in that outfit. Like you just need Cannavale.
No. What if? Get this fact, right? What if it's a male and female cop duo, Carnivale and whoever, I don't know, Lucy Lawless or someone, I don't know, like some sort of 80s, 90s, I can't think right now, but you know what I mean? Pamela Anderson and Bobby Cannavale. No, Pamela Anderson is too vivacious. It has to be someone who's kind of
Lucy
obviously
Lawless would be a good one. Lucy Lawless
obviously beautiful, but not like
Yeah.
And they're like walking down the hall or whatever, and they get called in with the chief, and the chief's like, "You've got to go undercover as prostitutes," blah 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 blah. And Bobby Cannavale goes, "What do you mean we have to?" And he's like, "No, you're both going undercover as prostitutes." And Bobby Cannavale goes, "Hang on, I'm a man though." And he's like, "Look, you don't have a beard, you don't have a mustache. We can put a wig on you. It's for who's gonna know." And he's like, "No. He's like, "Look, shave your legs. We'll put a wig on you." This is the whole scene, right?
Right.
So then you cut to like the police corridor, right? The camera's looking down the police corridor. Yeah. And first Lucy Lawless comes around the corner in slow motion in the horrendous wig and the blue leatherette jacket and whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then following the corner, adjusting, like pulling his jockstrap out from under his or pulling his pants out of his asshole or whatever as he comes around the corner and fumbling on his high heels is Bobby Cannavale dressed up as another hooker. And he's like, "I'm going to get you for this, McGinty."
Right, exactly.
That's the show I'll watch till the end of time.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. And that's what we need for the Warwick Davis, the wig for the Warwick Davis Rod Stewart biopic.
I'm sorry, but Warwick Davis as Rod Stewart in a 1980s undercover vice prostitute wig is fucking genius. We should be given a government grant for this shit.
Yes, we go to Germany. We can go ask that because I think the Germans isn't that what Uwe Boll, isn't that what he made his whole career off of, was exploiting German tax loopholes and then just getting actors between. I think they had to close or they had to change the loophole because it was a tax grant.
It became a loophole.
Right, but loophole exactly. But I think they changed the rules for it because the whole idea was that they wanted to sort of promote like indie film, like that, they wanted, and instead it was just Uwe Boll just being like, "I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to talk to the agents, the major agencies, and find out what actors." I'm going to get
Stephen Dorff and put him back in horror films.
Right, exactly. It's like who has 2 weeks off in this month here to shoot a film, and the agents are like, "Oh well, Matthew Lillard, Jason Statham, Burt Reynolds, great. We're gonna put them all in the movie." Tara Reid, I can do Tara Reid. That's fine. Yeah, and then I'm gonna take this German tax credit to pay for them. And it's
dude, I actually like that movie.
Oh, it's
good. I actually like The Name of the King. I like that.
They're all ridiculous. Yeah.
But people, and we've talked about this a little when we did Troll over on my show, but like people talk about that movie like it's the worst fucking thing that they've ever seen ever, and it's terrible. And I'm like, it's not at all. It's like perfectly delightful.
No, but I do love the fact that our enjoyment of Uwe Boll films is subsidized by German taxpayers.
Me too, man.
Right.
Fucking hell.
Beautiful.
Everything should be subsidized for the end of time. Right. Well, not now. Now America should subsidize everybody because whatever. Yes. But back then, after the Germany in World War II, Germany should have just been forced to pay for everything. And look, if what we get back is Uwe Boll films, we've still lost. So fuck them. But it's like Germany went, "Oh fuck, really? Okay, you want us to pay back? Fine, we will pay for Uwe Boll films." And it's the Germans are sat there going, "Ha ha ha! They wanted good films, and we gave them the Scheisse." And you're just like, "Oh great, yeah, thanks Germany, you bastards."
But then I think they were like, "No, we can't have Uwe Boll representing us. So all right, you got to stop. We're not paying, Yeah.
No, then they went, "Everyone, remember Wim Wenders is one of ours." I know he did some stuff in the States, but he's one of ours. And Herzog, and you're like, no, Herzog is Bavarian. Right. Yes, but it's adjacent. I'm like, if you're claiming Herzog, you have to claim Hitler because they're both Bavarian. So deal with it. So if you want to claim that Hitler was Bavarian, really, he wasn't. Yeah. He wasn't like proper. Don't worry about it, mate. He wasn't proper Germany. He was like, up in the mountains and shit. And you go, well, they go, well, if you want to do that, then you can't claim Herzog. All right, they'll
Yeah.
move on. But Wim Wenders, he's still one of ours.
Yeah. Murdo, Lang, Fritz Lang. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
would go back fucking 100 years, sure.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, maybe it's a good place for us to segue here. We'll kind of segue forward 70 years from Murnau to 1994.
From Murnau to
The
T-Force.
T4, yeah,
Yes.
Murnau to Pepin, Richard Pepin,
Richard Pepin,
Richard Pepin,
starring Jack Scalia. I know, I can't. I don't even know what I'm saying.
Yvonne Lurie,
Yes, Yvonne Lurie. That works.
Yvonne
I don't know
Lurie,
what I would say.
Yeah.
Jacques. It would be Jacques Clair or something. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the movie we're discussing here is T-Force. It is but on your podcast previously we talked about Hologram Man, and we also on that episode we talked about Tough Guys Don't Dance, which was a really fun one to discuss. But we were thinking about maybe doing a twofer, and we decided let's put T-Force on my show here.
Do a twofer with T-Force.
Twofer with T-Force. This is it's interesting because Jack Scalia kind of does like a bunch of these like sci-fi PM films with Richard Pepin, but Hologram Man isn't one of them. Even though Pepin does direct Hologram Man, but this is kind of the start of Scalia's 4-picture run with PM, I guess.
Yes, I think he has four pictures, something like that. In fact, I should bring that up while you're talking. So give me a second.
Yeah, I think it's 4 movies, and I think Pepin directed them all. I'm not sure. This is, when it comes to PM, this is one of the better ones. This is one I think it's I don't think I have it in my top 5, but I think I probably should. I think after watching this one at Hologram Man again recently, I think you were talking about preferring this one to Hologram Man, and I think myself, I'm kind of in that boat of like, there's a lot more going on here. I think the beefcake factor is definitely high.
Yes.
And then for our listeners who aren't as much into the male beefcake factor, we've got Erin Gray. So if you grew up in the 80s, you probably were a fan of her as well. So a lot of kind of interesting, fun stuff in here with this one. But
yeah, because he does this one. He does the Silencers. He does Dark Breed. Those are all sci-fi, and I'm just trying to find his 4th one. Oh, he does Amore with Kathy Islands. That's a comedy.
Oh, okay. So but it was that one directed? That one wasn't directed by Pepin, was it? I don't remember.
I don't think so.
No. Okay. So 3 of his 4 were directed by Pepin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was a 3-picture run with Pepin, but and the other thing too is interesting about this one is it's the action direction is or the action director stunt coordinators are Red Horton and Broadway Joe Murphy. I think it's Broadway Joe Murphy. I think it's the name. But
that's what we're gonna call him, because that's a damn cool thing to call him.
Yeah, he's but Spiro Rosatos does some stunt work on it as well. Yeah, Broadway Joe Murphy. It was Broadway Joe. So it's just interesting that you've got Rosatos in here, but he's not like stunt director. He's just sort of doing some stunts and helping out. But that was kind of like another combo when it came to stunts, was that you had Spiro Rosatos, you had Cole S. McKay, and then you had this duo of Red Horton and Broadway Joe Murphy.
And Art Camacho did some of the fight work.
He did the fight work, exactly. Yeah. So, and of course, you got to have Art Camacho doing the fights in that, of course. The other thing that's funny is Hoke Howell is in the movie, but he's only credited as a stunt worker, which is just there's weird stuff going on with the credits, and it's just overall, it's just
and Evan Lurie is credited for both.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Hoke Howell. I don't know what the deal is with Hoke Howell, like why he's not credited. But because even Red Horton is credited, he's the guy behind the desk who gets plugged between the eyes. The security guard at the lobby, which is it's one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, is security guard in a lobby, and so that's why your stunt coordinator's like, I'll take that job. And
definitely in a neon drenched. Pardon me. Sorry, hang on.
Yeah.
In a neon drenched, like Fitzlangian concrete monolithic high rise, where they're trying to be both kind of like sleazy and 90s, but also classy and like Blade Runner. When you're doing that, and that's where you're at. It's funny, isn't it? PM Entertainment movies and softcore porn films of the 1990s have exactly the same cinematographers, the same lighting crews and the same cinematographers. And didn't Pepin start off in porn? Isn't that where Pepin started off?
Oh, that's a good point, because I know that the cinematographer for this film, Ken Blakey, if you look at his bio, he starts off in porn. He also,
I think PM Entertainment was funded by porn money.
I think right.
We have porn to thank for PM Entertainment. Yet another great thing that porn has done.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Let me see, because as I'm kind of paging down here. Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's some of the ones.
Started as a director of photography on porn.
Yeah, so here's some of the titles. Sweet Nothings, Loose Morals, Games Couples Play. He actually goes by the name Rick Christopher when he does these. So when he's doing like the PM flicks at the same time, like Mayhem or Blood Frenzy, or actually those are City Lights, right? Mayhem, Blood Frenzy.
Yes.
He's going by his own name. He's going as he's a Richard Pepin or Rick Pepin. But while he's doing Teenage Games, Sinfully Yours, or Rich Bitch, he's Rick Christopher. Though I guess he did go by his name in Caught from Behind 3. That one he did. Yeah. And then for our Andy
Sidar, someone had to enter all this in.
Right.
Do you think Pepin entered? Who else would know? Like who?
Yeah. No, because I will tell you, like when you look at some of these, like they're pretty lazy. Like nobody mentioned that Hoke Howell is uncredited in this movie, right? Nobody, even though that's the one you'd think, like if anybody's like a real hardcore fan, they'd be like, oh, I need to get in there maybe and edit and be like, come on, Hoke Howell. How can you not mention Hoke Howell, even though he wasn't credited? Put the uncredited parentheses. But somebody else was
instead, he's happy to go by his own name under Love Lessons,
right,
as well as. Radio Cave.
I was going to say Radio Cave, for our Sidaris fans, right? We have K Sexy, right? So softcore, right? Kind of, just nudity with some kind of love scenes. You do K Sexy. When it's hardcore, it's K Cum. But they're both correct in the sense that west of the Mississippi, you start with K. So they both at least have the right call signs.
This is what I love. Yeah. Caught from Behind 2 is Caught from Behind 2, the sequel. Right. Because just putting the number 2, they thought the people watching this movie might not know that just by putting a 2 on it, it makes it the sequel. So not only do we put a 2 on it, which should denote that it is part 2 of something, if that is too complicated for you, we are going to explain it. So it's part 2, the sequel. Oh, thank you for clearing that up, because I didn't know what the 2 meant.
Is it like with Blood Fist? Maybe people thought it would be like Blood Fist, where like the movies don't always follow, right? It's just like Blood Fist 5. But if we put it to the sequel, they'll understand that these characters are coming back and we're working with them again.
Right, yes. Even though none of the original cast returned. These are all new assholes.
Exactly, yeah. But you're right, like the burgeoning like porn scene in the 90s in LA, which is probably another thing to think about with why we don't have another PM coming, is that the money in porn has just completely fallen off.
Right.
The illegal porn industry. So it's probably why Randall Emmett was able to swoop in and ruin the entire industry, because we don't have the next generation of Pepin and Merhi making money off porn and then making action films with that money. Yes, it's a shame.
It is. And I think, also obviously the great Bill Lustig, who directs Maniac and Maniac Cop 1, Maniac Cop 2, and one of the Jeff Speakman movies, The Expert, before he walked off it. He walked off it halfway through. He was like, fuck this, I'm not dating with Jeff Speakman anymore. Anyway, that's how he talks. He talks like that, but in an American accent. I can't do the American accent, but he talks in like a high-pitched, squeaky voice. Anyway, I love him. He's great. Bill Lustig, if you're listening, cheers, mate. Thank you. But no, he also started off in porn, shooting hardcore pornography on the rough streets of New York. I mean, like all that. That's what's wild about those like Glickenhaus movies and those Lustig movies and those Cohen movies. When they go inside those theaters and there's like fucking hypodermic needles everywhere and like fucking crackheads dying in burnt out beds and shit, like that's just what there was. Right. Like that's not, they didn't have the money to go find crackheads and set fire to beds. They just showed up in brothels and went, what have we got? They went, well, we got a crackhead and a burnt out bed. And they went, fine, we'll fucking take it. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. Because I've only really been to New York post, in the early 2000s.
The
So
Disneyfication of it.
right. So I've never seen that New York.
No.
And it's when you watch a movie like Frankenhooker, for example, and there's a character speaking Swedish, and the main character's like, what the hell are you doing? You're speaking Swedish to me in Times Square? This is ridiculous. Because no tourist would be caught dead in Times Square, especially at night in the 80s. But
Right.
now it's like, if you don't hear Swedish when you walk through Times Square,
Yeah.
something's wrong.
It's very Swedish now.
It's very Swedish.
It's excessively Swedish. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, the other thing with this movie that it does have, that I notice has become a bit of a hallmark with some of these
Wait,
flicks.
are we talking about T-Force now, or Caught from Behind 2?
Oh, yes, we're talking about T-Force, exactly.
Oh, T-Force. We're off the subject. I just want to draw a line. I want to draw a very definite line between that movie and this one.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're on to T-Force starts now.
Exactly. Yes. But yeah, T-Force. We have Vernon Wells at the beginning, and I've noticed this seems to be a little bit of a hallmark of PM films as well. That you get like a kind of a not a big name actor, but somebody that's recognizable at the beginning of the movie who leaves the production. Like you had John Amos and Hologram Man. You have like Chris Mitchum and Lauren Taves, or Tews, I don't know how to say her last name, from Love Boat in Magic Kid. You get like somebody like that you like, okay, I recognize this person, I know who they are, and then they're gone. They kind of just there for the beginning. So it's kind of an interesting way that they do cameos like that, where Pure Danger has Donnie Most from Happy Days in the very beginning. It's a fascinating thing. So
Pure Danger. I can't wait to talk about Pure Danger.
Yes, for people listening, that's going to be on John's show. We're going to be discussing Pure Danger. But this one, I mean, the Vernon Wells, it's funny because he's still the Vernon Wells you see now is again, he does the kind of the Eric Roberts 1 or 2 pages, get me in for a minute or two. You're just kind of like, okay, it's Vernon Wells, I guess.
Toaster.
Right, exactly. I've been trying to do his Australian accent. He doesn't have as much of an Australian accent anymore. He had more of one in this movie. He hadn't been in America long enough to lose it, like to the point that he's lost it now. But but it's one of those things where this movie, they know exactly where they're going right away. Vernon Wells comes in, that this guy behind the desk is not going to survive.
No, everyone's dying.
Yeah. And he starts shooting people. You see a helicopter fly in, and I always joke. There's a hockey player who used to play for the I think the Blackhawks, a few other teams, named Tony Amonte, and he's from the Massachusetts area, so he does like coverage of the Bruins up there. And he was telling a story about how when he played in the NHL, he didn't like to fight. He didn't like to, but he would get his fight out of the way early in the season, so his teammates couldn't say, "Hey, you never fight," because he'd be like, "Oh, I got no fight, in October or whatever." Yeah. And it feels like with PM sometimes they're like, "Let's just get the exploding helicopter out of the way. Let's get our fight out of the way," and that's what they do here.
Yeah, no, completely. And I think that I've been watching a lot of PM lately, and in fact, I've got more on order right now, so I'm very excited. But I think that once they found that formula of big opening, right? They watched James Bond, and they were like, right, we want some of that. We want to give them a pre-credit, explosion and car chase, and throw 5 cars through an explosion while another truck hits a small child or whatever. A huge city bus chase or whatever. We get that. And then they go, okay, after that, if something hasn't happened in 7 minutes, make something happen. And it becomes a 7-minute roll. And all PM entertainment movies do not go by that. I watched is it A Time to Die, the Tracy Lords one? Right. And you keep expecting it to become, some kind of weird, crazy kind of, I don't know, woman goes after a bad guy, kind of Stalker in the Night type movie. You keep expecting it to go full blown, and it just never really does. It's sort of a mild, weirdly erotic, not really erotic thriller with the weirdo from Greece with huge hair and a terrible accent. who you would take 2 looks at and go, instead of jumping into bed with him, I think I'll push him off this roof.
Yeah, and you know that poor young Tracy Lords, who was in her early 20s when she made that, had to constantly probably keep him like just smack his hands away.
He's so creepy in the movie.
Yes.
The fact that she ends up with him in the movie, you're just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So sometimes there's that. Sometimes, as we've talked about, there are the Wings Hauser, C. Thomas Howell, where they've gone, listen, guys, go off, make a movie, do whatever you want. And they just Hauser or howl it up to the fucking, high beams, you know what I mean? Just up to the millions. They just through the roof, over 11, whatever you want to say. They just Hauser it up to the max zone. And you say, okay, there's those, and I love those. Then there are the sort of boring ones that I'm sort of like, oh, why didn't they deploy some of their, rules in this movie? Like, why didn't they, pepper it with some explosions or some car flips or something? And then there are the good ones. Then there are the ones I was talking about. And so I think T-Force, T-Force definitely was one where I was like, okay, this is the PM entertainment I want to always be watching.
Yeah. And I'll give a quick synopsis. So essentially, when this hostage thing happens, they don't know what to do about the hostage. They've got them on the top of the skyscraper. They don't know how to stop them. So they call in this cybernetic police force called T-Force or Terminal Force, led by Evan Lurie, but it's also got Darren McBee, aka Malibu. It's got let me just pull the guy's name, Bobby Johnston, who people might know from Animal Instincts, the Shannon Worry film. He's the cable guy that she cheats with, that Maxwell Caulfield catches her with. He goes running out of the house naked, and she's like, they realize, oh,
he's
Maxwell
the cable guy.
He's the cable guy, and she's, they realize, oh, he actually likes watching me have sex with the cable guy.
What a fantastic plot point.
Exactly. So,
what is resume? Well, I was cable guy.
Yeah, I don't think he was credited. The other thing with him, for some reason, Evan Lurie no longer has a picture of himself. He used to, but yeah, Bobby Johnson, no picture on IMDb. So I feel like I should just take his picture from him. He has a ponytail in Animal Instincts. I should just have a picture of him, like when Maxwell Caulfield catches him in bed, and put that as his profile picture.
Right, go to IMDb Pro and just put lots of ponytail pics of him up on his profile.
Right, exactly. Then the other one is Jennifer McDonald. She's the female. We realized that she kind of has a crush on Evan Lurie, her character. And then there's a fourth one named Athens, who we don't need to worry about because he gets killed off early on. But anyway, they do a poor job of rescuing the hostages. Essentially, that helicopter that they blow up has hostages on it, and it's just like they blow them up. So we have an alderman who's angry, kind of this doughy alderman guy who's just referred to as the alderman. And then Erin Gray plays our Mayor Pendleton, who in my book, Bainbridge, I actually refer to the mayor as Mayor Pendleton. I kind of base it off of her. But
I love that.
Yeah, so she's not really in the movie much, or in the book much. But yeah, they're kind of like, you know what, we got to shut this whole T-Force thing down. And Jack Scalia, I kind of forgot to mention, Jack Scalia is like the human who goes in and
he's the grumpy human cop in a world of robots.
In a world of robots, exactly. And so they decide they're going to shut down T-Force, and Evan Lurie's like, when he gets the news from the doctor, Dr. Gray, who's played by Martin E. Brooks, who's I think the scientist who created the $6 Million Man. So he goes on after creating the $6 Million Man, Bionic Woman. He then creates T-Force. That's what he does after that. And so he lets them know, like, hey, we're shutting you guys down. And Lurie's like, well, that can't be right, because my programming tells me that you can't be shutting me down. I've got to protect I preserve myself. So he snaps his neck, and then they go on the lam, except Bobby Johnston, because the algorithm, we've learned with algorithms, when you put in information to an algorithm, sometimes you get different results. Right. And in this case, you put the information into Bobby Johnston's algorithm, and he says, I'm going to stay behind and stay next to my dead doctor, who is not making any more T-Forces or Bionic Women or $6 Million Men.
Or realistic Japanese sex dolls.
Right there, exactly right. He's not getting those anymore. But yeah, pretty much what happens is that the rest of the T-Force, they go destroy the police station, which I don't know how many movies have had police station massacres in PM. Right. I know Recoil had a police station massacre. They seem to like a police station massacre, but after I want to take a big show of hands.
who doesn't like a police station massacre?
Right, exactly.
I mean, listen, you know, who doesn't love it? There's so many guns there. There's all these people running about. They've all got uniforms on.
Yeah.
Explosions go off. Oh, it's fantastic. Everyone, I love it.
And it's just, you just set up the office and just, and you just get a bunch of stunt guys and put them in blue suits and
and you
just
can get away with
shimmy.
having a lot of glass because old
Exactly.
police stations used to have that like wooden thing with the glass in it, whatever.
Yes.
And so they can just throw a lot of stunt people through glass.
Yeah.
I think in Maniac Cop 2, which is another Spiro Rosatos movie, he picks up two other cops and walks with them through like plates of glass as if they were like rag dolls or whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't that happen? I think that happens.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, that's the funny thing about this is that you get really great. It's a fascinating thing to see a movie where Spiro Rosatos is a stunt guy, but not the coordinator, not the stunt coordinator, you know, because you wonder, I mean, I guess there's probably some input. I mean, I'm sure there were plenty of times where Spiro Rosatos was with Red Horton and Broadway Joe Murphy, where they were just doing a lot of cocaine and figuring out, you know, what they were going to do for these scenes.
They were like, how about we ramp a school bus, a city bus, and 5 cars all at once through a wall of fire, and have Jack Scalia walk away and not even like blink.
Exactly.
Do you think we can pull that off in 30 seconds? Let's get going, guys. And then they do another huge line of cocaine. And weirdly, Matt, the stunt goes off without a hitch.
Without a hitch. Nobody dies. Yeah. The one thing I will say about PM stunts versus, I mean, sometimes you watch PM, like I was watching Riot with Todd Liebenow from Forgotten Filmcast. He was on, he'd never seen it before. And we were doing it for the podcast. And he caught something that I hadn't caught in that before, which is a scene where Gary Daniels kicks over a flaming barrel, and the idea is it's supposed to get in the way of the baddies. And he caught that barrel does not fall the way it's supposed to, and it almost like lands, like the flames almost land on Gary Daniels, and he has to like get out of the way of all. You know, I never caught that before, so I do wonder. I mean, the one that I always think of is AIP, Action International Pictures. It seems like there's always a lot of danger with there. Like you're just wondering, like, did they rig those explosions on the ground properly? Like when people were sitting there with their guns, like you just, PM, it feels a little bit safer, but.
But there was something I was watching recently, and I can't remember what it was. It wasn't something that I've noted that I watched because I think it was something that was on TV rather than a movie, and I only catalog my movie watching on Letterboxd. And it was talking about stunts, and it was behind the scenes and blah, 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 blah. And out of nowhere, like just matter of factly, they were talking about, they go, well, of course, Ricky was hospitalized that one time, and I think someone died. Anyway, and he just went on. Ricky was hospitalized pretty badly, and then he goes, I think someone died. Anyway, you know, we went on and we improved safety measures over time, whatever. Anyway, he went back to talking about stunt things. And I suddenly thought to myself, wait, he's given us a peek behind the curtain. Normally, unless it's a high profile stunt player who has done tons of stuff and dies tragically doing some ridiculous stunt, we are not going to hear about it. Most people are not going to hear about it. And here he is just dropping in casually. Yeah, I think someone died. Anyway, we put the car back on the ramp, reset the fireworks, and this time it worked perfectly.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, because what happens is, you know, again, essentially what they decide is like, okay, the only way we're going to defeat these T-forces if Jack Scalia teams up with Bobby Johnston, and they do. They end up taking
the only way. They looked at everything, Matt. The only way is to pair the grumpiest and most robot racist. Let's just call it what it is. Yeah. Robot racist. The most robot racist man. The only way, Matt, is if we pair him up with the goody two-shoes T-Force robot that didn't, whose first instinct wasn't, Matt, let's murder everybody.
Right, exactly. and it's interesting because there's like this allegory or like this like, I guess, like metaphor for, I think, which I mean, I guess it's pertinent now with the current, administration about illegal immigration, but this idea of like immigrants coming and taking your, it's sort of like this, and so instead of having it be like, okay, we're going to have Jack Scalia be completely racist against Latin American immigrants, we'll use this allegory of cyborgs
Yes.
and have it as like this metaphor for it. And I guess that probably helps if you're Jack Scalia, because you don't have to play a racist. You can just play an
Right.
robotist.
Well, it's it's Alienation, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah.
James Caan and Mandy Patinkin in that. Is that
Yes.
what
Yeah,
it is?
exactly. Yeah.
And aliens and robots.
Right.
You can use them as race substitutes
Yes.
in sort of early future or soon to be future science fiction stories, because it can never be like hundreds of years in the future.
Right.
It's just like in the next 50 or 60 years we discover either robotics or we discover aliens or whatever it is, and here are the allegories where there are some people that are like, oh, isn't it wonderful, our robot brethren should be treated like humans and given basic rights and blah 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 blah. There's all that left wing shower. And then you've got the right wing who are just like, fucking robots, blah, blah, they've stolen all of our jobs, blah, 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 and they just fucking hate robots.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Jack Scalia in the scene in the bar where like all his other friends on the force, who why you would hang out with him, I've no idea. Horrendous. He's like, oh, don't worry about Jack. He's just a robot racist.
Right.
Oh, he doesn't know any better. You know what I mean? He lost a finger to a robot in Nam or something. Anyway, whatever it is, whatever it is, that scene where he's like leaning up against the bar and they're playing pool, right? And he just spouts off about like America and police force and anti-robots. I was like, he is like Leslie Nielsen. He is threading that thin thread between parody. He knows he's being ridiculous.
Right.
But at the same time, he's playing it right like your racist Uncle Bertie. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, that's the thing with Scalia, is that Scalia, I mean, again, it's only a 4-film run with PM, but he's kind of notable for, like, when people list, like, who's done PM films, he's usually at the top of the list of people that are associated with
Scalia's one of the men. He's one of the men. He's one of the many men.
Yeah, and I mean, he like you said, he nails this part, both as like the anti-robotist, or how he was, who then has like kind of the redemption
robot racist, man.
Racist.
The preferred nomenclature is robot racist.
Robot racist. I mean, what I loved was the very Philip K. Dickian scene where he is like doing his, like, he's got his like virtual reality thing on his head, and he's like trying to have a moment with this like hologram thing.
Yeah.
And then the thing glitches on him, and he like has to, he initially is about to smash it. But there's something like very Philip K. Dick about that, of like, the guy like trying to, do it, and the thing glitches, like, because, of course, technology is only going to get worse as we get older, right? So, it's going to fall apart even more.
He's like, it's just typical. Like, fucking robots taking my jobs, and I can't fucking wear a VR headset and have a good wank in the privacy of my own apartment. What the fucking world coming to? And he's shooting holes in the ceiling and putting more pomade in his hair. I have to say, this is my second or third Scalia, but this is my favorite Scalia, hands down. He is giving me Leslie Nielsen meets Daniel Baldwin, and I think you know what I mean.
I do. But it's Leslie Nielsen meets Daniel Baldwin, but in the face of a 40-year-old former underwear model, right?
Right. Yes.
Like, and so you get this like kind of, when you were last on, we were talking about Harry Hamlin, Scalia.
He's like, he's got a Hamlin vibe.
Right, because he's the same age. They're about the same age, and so they were about the same age at this time with
Hallmark has to make a Scalia and Hamlin irritable brothers movie. I want to see that now. Stat.
Yes, and Erin Gray, you bring Erin Gray back because she's married to Scalia, or she divorces Scalia, right? Like it's like almost like an Odd Couple kind of thing, right? Where Erin Gray divorces Scalia. I don't know who the wife would be. That maybe Linda Hamilton divorces.
Beverly D'Angelo.
Beverly D'Angelo. That's perfect. Yes, that's perfect. Yes. Oh. Yeah, the two of them would be amazing in that, and they've got kids who are like, just grab whatever soap stars that were born in the 80s as their kids,
Or either that, or because it's a Hallmark movie or whatever, but it's also Scalia and Hamlin and whatever. And let's just assume, because he seems to like all the same shit that I like, let's just assume that like Paul Rudd is a secret like Scalia Hamlin fan. So he takes a massive pay cut and he plays like Scalia's son or something.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? and he plays it. He plays it like 20 years younger than he actually is. So he's what, 50 or whatever he just turned. Right. He plays it as like 30 with like a backward baseball cap and a mullet hair.
That would be so perfect. That would be so, yes. It would be like the best. And yeah, those two. Yeah. I mean, the performance that Scalia does here shows that he could just,
phenomenal.
Yes. Yeah. Get David Dakota. David Dakota could direct the hell out of him in a Hallmark.
Yeah. Because you go from that scene in the bar where he's spouting off with his robot racicities at his fellow police people who are just putting up with it. Like,
right, yeah.
Isn't even one of his like 3 colleagues isn't one of them black or whatever. Like, and there's no point that they should have at some point cut to the black guy going, "The fuck is this? You're a robot racist." Yeah, that's what he should have said. Anyway, you go from that scene, right, to the end scene where he's like playing blackjack with his dead robot partner's brain, and it's one of the most just like heartwarmingly yet comedic yet what the fuck kind of scene creepy. You've ever seen. And because you're now like, wait, is the brain of his now dead robot ex-partner robot whatever, is that just going to live in his living room now? Is he going to have to listen for the rest of his life to Scalia's fuck noises? Right. Well, Beverly D'Angelo comes round.
Yeah, right. Because they kind of set it up that's kind of not a fun, because the woman at T-Force, right? She kind of dies, and Bobby Johnston gets her brain thing out, and he's like talking to it. She's like, Bobby. I guess I could call him K. I guess I could put his character K, but
it's great.
Yeah, he's Bobby Johnson. He's our be ponytailed cable guy from Animal Instincts. That's our Bobby Johnson.
I was cable guy in Animal Instincts. With Shannon Worry. You've probably seen it.
I'm the key plot point where they realize that Maxwell Caulfield has a thing for watching his wife have sex with other people. And then they go put an ad in the classifieds and just get tons of. I mean, have you seen Animal Instincts recently? That one is just an absolute.
No, I haven't seen it. Not recently, Matt. Not since I was probably 18.
Right. It is the trip. I mean, there's a point where you get like a couple who are like doing like some like French Renaissance outfit thing, where it looks like Falco from Rock Me Amadeus, and the stuff that Bobby Johnston sets
looks
in
like
motion.
Fabio and Seinfeld.
Exactly.
In the puffy shirt, I mean,
right? Exactly. Yeah, that movie is it's a trip. So yeah, I mean, Bobby Johnston, he pulls the brain thing out of her, and she's like, it's dark, I can't see. Like, she's like, this is weird, right? I'm a disembodied, and so it's already established that that's not a fun thing for the robot to just have their brain turned on. But yet Scalia's like, I'm just going to turn your brain on, and we're going to play blackjack.
And it's sometimes it's going to be nice and heartwarming and funny, and we're going to play blackjack. And other times you're going to have to sit in a dark living room listening to the howls of my sweet lovemaking as I give Beverly D'Angelo the 30 seconds of her life.
Right. Well, because I think did they tease that he and Erin Gray get back together? Because I think they were a couple. Which I never would have realized this.
She's like the hot city chief or whatever she is, right?
Yeah.
I thought she had a certain cuteness.
Right, exactly. Did you know she's actually like 10 months older than him? Which I never would have known watching the movie that they, age-wise, that they were, but yeah.
She's from Hawaii. She's Hawaiian.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite role of hers wasn't Buck Rogers or Silver Spoons. It was the 2-episode arc she did on the Fall Guy, where she was in like the naval officer's outfit. Was to me, she should have won all the Emmys for that.
Yeah, why are we even talking about T-Force?
Right, exactly.
Let's just talk about Erin Gray's naval outfit. Tell me more, Matt. What color is it? Is it white or blue?
As a young kid growing up watching that, I was just like, okay, I'm
all in. Whatever this is. Yeah, whatever this is, give me more of this.
Right, because by the time she's in T-Force, I guess they're saying that in the future, the puffy coat, the shoulder pads on the coat, that comes back into style at some point in the future.
Right. Yeah,
because
fine.
All of her
I'm all for that, though. I'm all for that. Bring it back. Bring it back now, because Erin Gray looked hot in it, and I want to see more people look hot in things. because the world has lost that. The world has lost it's all become too plastic.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to the Erin Grays of the world in some sort of hot mid-90s business wear suit.
Yeah, I think the other problem too with modern movies is that they're like completely like brushed digital film
Yeah.
that just like kind of
Yeah.
removes, yeah. And like
Yeah.
these PM films, I think one of the things that make these PM films better than modern DTV in particular is that they're just shot on film.
Yeah, shot on
And
film.
so like the men, I mean, like there is a kind of an awkward robot love scene between Evan Lurie and as Jennifer McDonald, is that the name? I get her name wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have an awkward robot love scene where, I mean, she is doubled in the scene.
By
Jennifer
the way,
McDonald.
great bad name.
Yes, robot love scene.
No, awkward robot love scene is a phenomenal. I've got to write that down.
Yes.
I have to write that down.
That would
Give
be
me
a great vaporwave band, or yeah, it's just like awkward robot love scene.
Love scene.
Yeah.
I'm writing that right down now. That's
right.
Amazing.
Yeah,
awkward. Yeah, I'm listening.
The first album, because Evan Lurie's character is named Adam, and then McDonald's character was named Mandragora. So that could be a great first album. Adam and Mandragora could be the first album title.
Mandragora?
Mandragora. Yeah, I think they called her Gora for short. But yeah, Mandragora was the name.
Gora the Explorer.
Gora the Explorer.
in an awkward robot love scene.
Yeah.
What was the what did you say earlier that had me absolutely? I laughed about it for like 30 minutes. It was something like a portly. Was it portly? No.
The alderman. Yeah, the doughy alderman.
Doughy alderman. I've got to write that down. And I have been laughing in my head. While you've been talking, I've been laughing about doughy alderman for hours now. It's amazing.
What was the deal with that? Like, you have the police chief, who was played by Don Stroud's older brother, Duke Stroud. He's like, I gotta call him. He's like talking to this. He's talking to this like doughy guy on this TV camera, and the guy's like, I'm an alderman, and no, you can't use T-Force. It's only an emergency. It's like, well, this is an emergency, and it's like, no, come on, alderman. And they kept referring to him as alderman, and then like he's meeting with Erin Gray, and he's just like, yeah, he's this like doughy, sweaty, shiny guy, and they keep calling him alderman, like that's his, his.
Well, that's his last name. He's Jeremy Alderman. No,
is that?
No, I'm making that up. No.
Yeah, I was like, what? But again, like these are things that in these scripts, they just kind of throw them in there because it's like kind of like we're just going to use this to get you.
Is this who we're talking about? Duke Stroud?
Duke Stroud was the police chief. Yeah.
Yeah, he was Chief Richmond.
Yeah, he's Don Stroud's older brother.
So who is Alderman then? I can't even see him listed here.
Because I think he has an actual name that is not listed on here. Yeah,
he's not Mohawk, is he?
No, I think he could be Dick. He could be Tom Bosco, who played Al. He could be Christopher Jackson, who played Clem. I don't know. It could be any of these people. Yeah.
Tom Bosco and Robert Gallo are doughy alderman.
No, Mohawk was
robot loves.
Mohawk is Stefano Militsakis. I believe he was the heavy in Maximum Risk, the Van Damme movie, where they have the fight scene in the elevator and stuff like that. I think that's him. Yeah. So this is what he did before that. He's referred to as Alderman whatever in the movie, but he doesn't. Yeah, they don't call him
Maybe he was a real alderman.
Right. That could be. They could have just pulled him out of the city hall in L.A. Yeah. Just
who is Clement von Frankenstein?
Right.
That's so weird.
Oh, he's the ambassador. He's the one that when they invade the office.
Right, but that's his name. Clement von Frankenstein, spelled Franck.
Yeah.
Ian Stein.
So
weird.
Unfortunately, he left us in 2019, but yeah.
But he was really the UN ambassador.
Right.
Like that wasn't he wasn't acting.
Right.
That was that he was really the ambassador. Oh, he's a real person.
Right. He does acting.
He's like an actual human.
He was acting up until 2020. He passed away in 2019, but he did a movie and hit a movie. He has a movie that's still, I guess, he
done 130 things.
Yeah, he played an English investor in Lionheart. But does that sound? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, possibly.
Yeah.
I don't remember Lionheart particularly.
He
Oh,
played a
yeah.
president. He was the former Austrian ambassador to the court of St. James. Does that mean he was a former Austrian ambassador to England? Is that?
Was he also an alderman? Keep reading. Is he an alderman?
No, he married somebody named Editha
he,
King
he
in
was in the Red Shoe
1939.
Diaries. He was in one episode of the
Oh,
Red Shoe Diaries.
oh, his dad was an Austrian minister in London. His dad, I think.
He was Dr. Ambrose Kerber in The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr.
Right.
He's in American Ninja 5.
Wow. Oh, that sounds about right, actually. That sounds like that movie could have used a Clement von Frankenstein or whatever. Uh, yeah,
You pay extra for that shit, man.
was also in a Coen Brothers film, Hail Caesar,
That's
which
true.
also had Dolph Lundgren in an uncredited cameo at the very end.
Yeah, that was
And
weird,
Christopher
right?
Lambert.
I love that. I love the Coen brothers. You know, all day they're making these sort of either intensely brooding, violent, hipster gangster pictures, or light, fluffy, esoteric, weird, sort of heists and capers kind of films, right?
Right,
And I
exactly.
love that they like go home that day, and then they probably take off their wigs and sit down on the couch and put on Christopher Lambert movies and Dolph Lundgren films. I think that is beautiful. I think that the idea, it would be like finding out that Wes Anderson is a big fan of The Rock or something. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like, I don't
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely, yeah. That movie in particular, Hail Caesar, it's just like, yeah, the fact that it's got any of those people. And I mean, again,
know.
they kind of cut the Lundgren scene out, but I mean, Lambert as like the
Right.
auteur director or whatever. Yeah, I mean,
And don't forget, Jim Belushi
yeah,
worked with David Lynch.
right. Yes.
Lynch, I love that. I love the
Yeah.
idea that Lynch was just like, changing channels one night. Because I imagine Lynch doesn't have like a new modern television. He has like
No.
one of those old rusted, like
Yeah.
metal made to withstand a nuclear blast
Right.
televisions. You know what I mean? That you have to hand crank occasionally,
Yes.
or
Yes.
whatever
Yeah.
it is,
Exactly.
and it makes the siren noise.
Yeah.
And he's watching on that, right?
Yeah.
On his telly, and he's flicking around, and he comes across like K9 PI, not even the original K9.
Right.
He did like the third sequel, and he's just like, oh, let's watch K9 PI, and from that, he's like, I am putting him
Right.
in Twin Peaks: The Return.
Yes. I love the idea of it, Canine PI or even Traces of Red, where he's just
Yes.
like watching him in denim shirts and ties, like, like all schlubby, falling all over the place and having sex scenes with Lorraine Bracco. And he's just like, that's the guy I want,
That's the guy I want
Yeah.
in Twin
Yeah.
Peaks: The Return.
Right.
That to me is a delight, because you're not telling me that Lynch, like, I don't know, watched About Last Night or something, or Salvador and thought, oh, I think Belushi is the one. I think Lynch watched fucking Traces of Red. I think he watched what's the time travel one where he has ridiculous sideburns?
Retrograde,
Something like
retroactive. Yeah.
Retroactive, that's it.
Yeah.
Retroactive. Yeah,
Which-
he probably watched that one and was like, "Oh, it's wonderful." He's like a beatnik biker, gun-toting, sideburn guy from like some '60s Roger Corman flick. You know what I mean? That's probably
Shannon
what
Worry, isn't it?
in
Retroactive?
Retroactive. Is it? Is it her doing a non-porny role?
Right. I think she was the girlfriend in the car.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. That sounds about right. Yeah.
I think that was Worry. That's right.
I've
it all
watched
comes
that
back to her.
film many times. I've watched that film with you, and I
Yeah.
could not tell you what happens in it at all.
No.
No idea.
No.
at all.
The only
No
thing
idea.
about that, from an action film standpoint, is you get to see M. Emmett Walsh flying over a car when somebody runs him down, which is just a beautiful thing.
That M. Emmett Walsh shows up in that film at all.
Yeah.
That's a delight. And I think that David Lynch watched that and went, I like movies in the desert with M. Emmett Walsh
Yeah.
that get me Jim Belushi. And I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
And my goodness, I wish more directors would take note. I want to see Belushi in Wes Anderson movies.
Yeah.
I want to see Belushi in Even Paul Thomas Anderson movies, and I fucking hate that guy. Richard Linklater should do like 12 years of Belushi. And just call it Boyhood 2, because you know Belushi hasn't grown up. Like, you know that. So it's just Boyhood 2, and they're like, wait, is he meant to be 12? Right. And we're following him because Boyhood's 12 to 24, right? Or whatever it is. I think
so. Something
okay, like so this would have to be, wait, is he meant to be 24? And it's like, yes, he's 24 at the beginning of the movie. And they're like, he's clearly in his 60s. No, he's 24.
Right.
And then when it finishes, they're like, finishes? Well, we're shooting with Belushi for 12 years. Yep, that's right. We're shooting Belushi for the next 12 years. Yeah. And we just see Belushi age and fall apart. And then they're like, oh, he's 36.
See, I love that, but I also love him being in a Scorsese film where Scorsese has him play the 25-year-old version of himself, and we're supposed to believe that that's the 25-year-old version of Belushi.
Yeah, what they do is, they don't even bother, like CGI, de-aging him. They just put like really thick pancake makeup on him and like rosy red cheeks,
and a backwards baseball cap.
And they're just like, they give him a couple of like freckles with like a eyebrow pen. Just go, I'll give him some like little orphan Annie freckles.
Right.
And they're like, there you go,
Belushi. There you go. That's it. I mean,
Scorsese, make that film tomorrow, please, for the love of God.
You know, there aren't a lot of things that could get me into the theater for a 3.5-hour film with no intermission, but Belushi, that movie could do it. I would, I wouldn't drink anything for a whole day, so I wouldn't have to go to the bathroom in the middle, you know?
Oh my God, there aren't many films that would get me in the theater for 3.5 hours, but Belushi. Playing a de-aged version of himself in pancake makeup and, you know, Wendy's mascot freckles and rose. Oh. That's what would get you in the theater. Yes, that is what would get me in the theater 100 times and twice on Sunday.
Yes, I would. You know,
I've never laughed this hard, man. I've been laughing this whole episode. This is the funniest episode we've ever done. Let's keep this rolling.
Yes. Well, I mean, you talked about the whole sending vehicles tumbling through the air thing, and I mean, we get a couple of good chase scenes, but really the big one comes at the end where they're in this like abandoned, like dilapidated buildings that were used for like Radiohead videos in the the mid 90s. And
as for all we know, this could be the warehouse where he filmed Razorhead. Like it could be equally. It looks like it was sort of a bit reminiscent of sort of a Pine joint. Like Pine would go find some burnt out warehouse and be like, I'm making my entire film here. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Gonna shoot every angle of it 500 times.
And so they've got these buggies that the T-Force people are driving around. And of course,
they're so cool, man. Yeah. They're so cool. You know, Rosatos and his team put that together. We're just like, I cannot wait to bomb through some burnt out building. And
yes. And the thing I couldn't tell, because a lot of times with these vehicles, I think a lot of times they just send them, they just get them moving and then the stunt guy jumps, like there's nobody really driving it and they just flip it up in the air.
Yeah, they ramp it or with the air compressor.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. But there are a couple of times, like especially when these things go rolling around, that they may have like dummies, like crash test images running in them. But I couldn't tell if maybe they were humans that were just like, they just made sure they were strapped in really well. And it's like, oh, there's a roll cage. You should be safe. And it's just like tumbling around and stuff like that. It's like, man, I would want to know if there were actual humans. And I don't know if they would ever tell us. Spirit Rosatos might tell us that like, I got in there and I did it. I was like, the hell with it.
Oh, man, can you imagine? Yeah. Just to say, and not only that, but like, and as amazing as PM Entertainment movies are, I first fell in love with that as a concept in the A-Team. Right. Because every episode of the A-Team, they would like turn a corner. They would like driving along being chased by like multiple cars or whatever. they would turn a corner to go down a center lane where there was parking either side, and the two cars that were following them would smash into the parked cars and then like flip up into the air or something like that. Anyway, there was always cars flipping into the air while the A-Team van drove away. They did that every week, Matt. Like that is, I mean, round of applause, right? For the A-Team. That was Craig R. Baxley, right? He was the big stunt brainchild behind the A-Team, I think, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, and it's like it's almost like with like T-Force has more shootouts, more explosions, more of those. Like they don't take like Spiro Rosatos. Like we'll talk about this definitely with Pure Danger, but I mean you can think of other ones like the Sweeper, or Recoil, or where it's like there's
Land
a
of the
shootout.
Free. I don't know if that's Rosatos, but Land of the Free has an amazing car chase.
Yeah, and it's kind of like where most action movies would end at the shootout, right? Or end at the explosion.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Rosatos is like that's where the whole Fast and the Furious don't let them get into cars comes from. And Spiro Rosato, of course, where he did the Fast and Furious movies, but it's like no, the scene doesn't end here. We're just getting started because people are going to get in their cars now, and we're going to go drive down, the Pacific Coast Highway or something, and have a whole bunch of explosions and chases and stuff there. I mean, and this movie doesn't have as much of that, but it is like, when those buggies are there, it's almost like, okay, Mr. Rosatos, go ahead, do your. I don't know if Red Horton, and because I feel like Red Horton and Broadway Joe Murphy, they seems like they do more of like the shootouts and stuff like that. Like the car chase thing, it feels like once you get Rosatos in here, he takes these car chases and the flaming stunt guys up to another level.
Yeah, and it was Pure Danger, I think, where you go from like a shootout in a bar to then a foot chase and then like a car chase, right? Isn't it like three parts and it just goes on and on and on? You're like, is this genius or is this just like madness? We'll talk about that on the Pure Danger episode. But no, PM Entertainment, they know that jokes work in threes, and they know that stunts work in threes. You give someone everything they want, and a film that took it to absolutely exhaustive levels was probably something like John Wick 4.
Yes, yeah. Well, right, because John Wick 4, I found out that they were planning to do a 4 and a 5, and I guess the studio was like, no, just get it done in 4, and so I was like, okay, well, let's do this. We're gonna just jam as much as we can in here. It's like PM. It's like if you do 3 hours of PM, like you do back-to-back PMs, it doesn't feel quite as exhausting as John Wick 4, where it's like when he gets kicked down the stairs.
As exhausting as the scene in Requiem for a Dream, where you get a different version of back-to-back PMs.
Right.
That is exhausting.
That's exhausting. Yes. Yeah. Keith David, for all the much I love Keith David, I never that was the Keith David that I was like, okay, I was not expecting that.
No, I was not expecting that from Sir Keith David.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, this movie T-Force, it's like. I mean, and then of course we kind of when we end the movie, so we get this really great scene where Darren McBee, aka Malibu, he crashes and Scalia is like trying to question him or something like that, and he gives him the middle finger with his robot, and so with his robot hand, and so Scalia does the classic, tough guys never look at explosions. He walks away and he gives the finger behind him, and he kind of he has like the fingers arched a little bit in it, but he's like, no, is this something like no, fuck you or something like that, and he blows him up. And then it's like, okay, now we've got to go get we've got to go Lurie, and that's where we get Chekhov's hologram, right? So we just thought that Scalia was just getting his rocks off, like Now, one of the things it kind of tells me, it makes me wonder, because what happens is that Lurie goes to kill the mayor and finds out that she's just a hologram, and I wonder.
I wish he then turned around and killed the doughy alderman. That would be amazing. He doesn't. I wish he'd gone, oh, fuck you with your hologram, man. I'm killing your doughy alderman. And they're like, no, we need him.
Right,
we need him.
What happens is Scalia has to blow up his car, which we find out, that there's this fancy old car that he has that that Bobby Johnston fixes for him and all that.
Yeah, but so of course he has to fuck that up, because that just is how that works.
If this had been Rosatos, as action director as opposed to Horton and Broadway Joe Murphy. I think the way it would have worked is that Lurie would have set the alderman on fire, thrown him out the window. He would have landed in the car and it would have blown up. And that's how,
Yeah.
But
Yeah, he would have
instead,
blown up on the back of the doughy
exactly.
alderman. In that bit, I think it was Safe that did it first with
Right.
Jason Statham. But this idea that has now been, and I love how action movies do this, how they go, we are going to stretch the credulity of what wouldn't just kill everybody, right? Right. And it starts with stuff like Die Hard. Like, we're meant to believe, everyone always goes, oh, I love John McClane because he's just a regular guy. I'm like, he's hanging from a burning skyscraper, holding onto a fire hose, and he manages to kick and shoot his way through a plate of glass and land on the fire. Like, he's far from me. I would have just been shot, and that would have been it.
Well, and it's also
and I'm a regular guy. But no, anyway, they try and do that, right? They try and say, oh, regular guy, but not really.
Yeah. Well, also the fact that glass can either be sharp when it needs to be or not sharp.
Right.
Like in that
That's
scene.
what I was saying. Yeah. Sorry. So when in Safe, he's running at a bad guy, right? Grabs him, smashes through a window, falls through an awning, and then lands on top of the other guy on the concrete, right? And then walks away unscathed because the idea is, right, that if you've got another human body, which, by the way, is full of sharp, bony bits or, whatever, especially if it shatters into pieces.
Right.
So even if you don't hit the concrete first, you're still hitting the concrete. The sheer force of falling out a window from that height means you are going through that body and probably through some of the concrete. But no. Right. We have said now in action movies, because it happens all the time now, that if you hit an awning, that somehow breaks your fall, and therefore it's fine. Therefore it's not a problem. Or if you hit an awning while on top of a body, either one, that's fine. And you can survive that. And we've given you that, and that's action movies now. Exactly. That happens in every action movie now.
Right. Well, because at least here, the explanation so what happens is Lurie goes to escape because Jack Scalia it doesn't kill him because he's no longer a robot racist. Now he so he doesn't want to just kill Lurie. But Lurie's like, I got to escape. So he jumps out the window. Unfortunately, he doesn't take the alderman with him. He just jumps out. This
is what happens when you make people less robot racist.
Right.
When you make people less robot racist, your really expensive, nice, shiny car that your partner helps you fix gets blown up.
Right.
Yeah, idiot.
Exactly. But because he's a robot, he can land and get up and get in the car and drive off. And then, of course, Scalia has an exploding gun that he uses and shoots blows him up.
He has like a bazooka gun. Right. But somehow from, whatever it is, at least a good couple of 100 meters away, through a window and down a street, he is going to blow up an entire car. Yeah, there's a lot of this is another thing I love about PM. Their assumption is if you fire one bullet at a car, everything in a square mile radius explodes. Everything. Exactly. It's glorious. It's beautiful. It's like opera for me. It's like opera for me.
Exactly. For me, it's well, isn't that too? The exploding gun idea was also used in Hologram, right? Didn't John Amos have an exploding?
I think everyone in most PM, if they go, wow, it takes place 10 minutes in the future. Then everyone has exploding guns.
Yeah. I mean, this movie, it is. Again, what makes PM so beautiful is that, again, like you said, there's really no downtime in this film.
No, I mean, it doesn't stop moving the whole time you're watching it. Either it's Scalia chewing the scenery or it's Rosatos and the dune buggies chewing up the ground.
Right. And I mean, you've got like these scenes where there's plotting maybe from the baddies and stuff like that, or like the Hoke Howell gun store scene where Scalia and Bobby Johnson are trying to piece together what the rest of the T-Force could be up to, and of course Bobby Johnson pieces it together, but the fact that Howell sells nitroglycerin and red food coloring, and he knows exactly what he's up to, and realizes it's Erin Gray's red wine that they're trying to make explosive, and but those scenes are so, it's like seeing Scalia and Hoke Howell go back and forth while Bobby Johnson's like sniffing his hands, sniffing Hoke Howell's hands, right? Like that should be dead time, right? That should be stuff that's like making us go like, okay, come on, just get on with it, just get on
Yeah,
with it.
yeah, yeah,
But it's fun enough that then later when we get into like more people getting killed, more explosions, it doesn't weigh the film down, or like Scalia and Erin Gray going back and forth, or Evan Lurie and Malibu and Jennifer McDonald going back and forth. Those scenes work well enough, and they don't let it weigh the film down enough that you like just when it might be like, I think if they went a little bit longer with those scenes and maybe it got to a point where it's going to be annoying, they were going to give us an explosion, they were going to give us
yeah.
a car chase, they were going to give us something. And
Yeah, or they were going to they were going to knife the doughy alderman in the neck and throw him
yeah,
off a building. Yeah.
right, exactly. And the other thing is, IMDb lists this as an hour and 45 minutes. I don't remember if it was quite that long. Maybe in that range, but
Yeah.
it's really not a long. The other thing is, this is on on YouTube,
Yeah.
but there's one version that's edited. So like when you hear Jack Scalia say shit, like it gets blurred out. There's another version that isn't edited, so you get like the full body double for Jennifer McDonald in the awkward robot love scene.
Yeah,
So
that that Film Rise distribution company that somehow got hold of some PM Entertainment films, put them out edited, which
yeah,
it's a criminal activity.
yes. Check out my newest release, Nadia and Aiden, available now. Told in a unique, dual first-person narration style, Nadia and Aiden explores what it means to be American from the standpoint of two kids who grew up in France with an American mother. It also looks at how we define family beyond DNA and blood relations, when life isn't always that simple. You can find Nadia and Aiden on Amazon in paperback, Kindle, and Kindle Unlimited. The link is in the podcast description. Yeah, so it's with PM, it is one of those things where like they just they don't let you get too bored,
No,
and it's a formula that I guess not everybody can have, like Spiro Rosatos or Red Horton and Broadway
no,
Joe
you
Murphy.
can't have him. You can't
Yeah,
have him. He's
right.
ours.
Yeah, exactly. But not every like obviously Randall Emmett. Though it's funny because if you look at some of the other names, like Cole SBK, he didn't really go on to do like big budget stuff the way that Rosatos did, or these two guys, Red Horton and Broadway Joe Murphy. I mean, Randall Emmett could get them, but I wonder if they look at his budgets and they're just like, no, I'm not doing a computer generated explosion. I know I want to really blow something up, and
Yeah, I think he was probably, the beginning of, well, I forget which Fast and Furious one, but I think it starts in Brazil or something.
yeah,
Because obviously Dominic Toretto is not only black and Asian, but he's also from Brazil. He's also
right,
South American. And he's Mexican, right? He's Mexican.
yes, right, yes.
And whatever. Anyway, Vin Diesel is all ethnicities. Uh, And so he's down in Brazil, and one of his like Brazilian cousins, because there's lots of different
Right.
Torettos in the world.
Yeah,
Oh, he's
right.
Italian as well. Did I mention he's Italian?
Toretto,
He's
yeah.
Toretto, but he's
Right.
fine with all ethnicities. Vin Diesel has sort of behind the scenes become the Steven Seagal of modern action films. He's the one where he believes his shit don't stink no more, right?
I mean, the thing that separates him from Seagal is Fast and Furious 4. I always say this, that had Fast and Furious 4 or whatever it was,
The
if
thing
that
that
had
separates him and Seagal is
Yeah.
Seagal has bothered to nail on some carpet hair
right,
for the
right,
last
Seagal.
few years, whereas Vin Diesel just shaves his.
Right. Yeah, Vin Diesel doesn't care. Yeah. But
Yeah.
but had that movie tanked, he would have been straight to direct-to-video. That was his last gasp on the big screen, and it worked. And I think a part of the reason why it worked was Paul Walker was so good in it. But it worked, and now suddenly Vin Diesel turns this thing from, with the help of people like Spiro Rosatos and great supporting casts, he turns Fast and Furious from a racing franchise into one of the biggest action franchises in
Of
the
all time.
world.
Yes,
Yeah,
ever.
and like none of the other ones really can do that, because every other action franchise, it comes from something else, right? It comes from comics, it comes from books, it comes from some other
Well,
TV
Vin Diesel
shows or
can just
something.
make shit up as he goes along. Whatever he's
Yeah.
like, well, this time we're flying in space. What's that,
Right.
Vin?
Right.
Yeah, we're going to space.
Right.
Then just deal with it. We're going to space. That's what we're doing, and get on with it. And then, we'll be running. What are we doing this time, Vin? Oh, well, we're going to be running around on a nuclear submarine that's just pierced the ice up in the glaciers. Wait, what? What are we doing, Vin?
Right. Right.
And not only that, but we're going to take a fucking Lamborghini. I'm sorry. Sorry, yeah, we're taking a fucking Lamborghini to some frozen wasteland, some fjord somewhere, with a fucking nuclear submarine coming up through the ice. We'll be driving around. The Rock is going to lean out of a car on the ice, pick up a torpedo. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, a torpedo. Or something that weighs several tons. Yeah, he's just going to whiz it at another car as if it was nothing. How's he going to do that? Well, he's got big arms. Big arms. That's how he's going to whiz a fucking torpedo across the ice to blow up a fucking car. Listen, I'm all for it, Matt. I hope they make fucking Fast and Furious 50. I really do.
Right. Well, it's interesting because he's not listed on Spiro Rosatos isn't listed as upcoming for the next Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah, it's not going to be as good then.
Yeah, he's got to be in there somewhere because he did Fast X, he did F9. I mean, obviously, one of his best ones, of course, for me, like one of my favorite comic book movies is Captain America: Winter Soldier. That's Rosato. I mean, if you look at the 2010s for like the best action of the 2010s, it's like it's Rosatos, and then it's like people like Chad Stahelski and Darren Prescott who worked with him on movies like Recoil. I mean,
right? He's the Tom Savini or the Greg Nicotero of like makeup effects people. For America anyway. I mean, there are after the whole Hal Needham kind of era. I mean, 80s onwards kind of America.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is that in the way that what was I saying? I forget. Anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. No, he's like to stunts.
I got to the end of that sentence and I was like, wait, where was I again? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Nobody's listening anyway. I'm sorry.
He's to stunts what Tom Savini is to makeup effects, right? Like he's,
right on the money, Chief. That's what I was saying. Thank you.
Yeah. It's absolutely and in this one again, with him not being the actual, the stunt coordinator, but I'm assuming he has some influence on it. Again, when you get those buggies, those dune buggy things, like spiraling through flames, and just sort of rolling around. It's so him.
But as I was saying in the beginning of the Fast and Furious movie that was in Brazil.
Yes, right.
Vin Diesel wins a race. So he challenges a guy to a race. To ultimately prove that it is not the car.
Right.
Matt. It's not the thing that has all the engines and the wheels and the pistons and the whatever cars have. Pistons, John. What are you talking about? I don't know. I'm assuming there's a piston somewhere. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Pistons. What? How old is your car?
Rack and pinion steering, right? It's like, right.
Anyway, he takes some beat up, rusted old, like fucking junker, like whatever, right? And they tear everything out of it. They leave him like a chair that they duct tape to the floor,
right?
And just my office chair that they just duct tape to the floor, and then he puts like 5 NOS fucking canisters on it all at once or whatever, right? Anyway, he drives that backwards through the streets of Rio. I presume it's Rio. I don't know.
Is that the one in Cuba, right? Where he's in Cuba.
Oh, is it in Cuba?
That's right. He's on the run. Was it number 8? Because Brazil was number 5, and I think he raced somebody else.
Is he Cuban as well? Is Vin Diesel Cuban as well? He's got a Cuban cousin as well.
Yeah, okay. He has the ability to mix with all.
I thought it was in the Brazil sequence with all the. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay,
I think you're talking. Yeah, I think it's Fast 8, right? Because then Charlize Theron shows up after the race, and she's like,
right.
"Oh, hey, guess what? I'm gonna make you a baddie for this film."
I'm sorry.
Right, yeah.
Is that do I sound like a horrible? Don't know what I'm talking about. Racist guy. I am racist. I'm white. What do you want me to say? Anyway, I couldn't remember if it was Brazil or Cuba.
Fast 5 is Brazil because I think there's the foot chase through the favela, I believe, or is that Incredible Hulk? Maybe I'm confusing.
No, that's in both films. It's in both films.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there's.
No, but I thought he went back to Brazil.
He might go back to Brazil, I think. It might be number 8 that he goes back to Brazil, because that's where his girlfriend,
Is
who
that
he
what I'm getting
marries.
confused about then?
Yeah,
Doesn't he go back to Brazil in one of the movies?
he does. Yeah,
That's what I'm doing. I'm putting that together. It wasn't
yeah,
it wasn't me being a terrible white racist.
yeah.
I was
No,
putting two things that do happen in the
right.
same movie
He
in
he
different
goes
parts.
back and like races or something there, because like they all love him in Brazil because
Right.
he's the whole family thing,
He's
right?
also Brazilian
Right.
and
Yeah.
Cuban and but anyway,
But
he
Dominican,
drives
I think
this
number 4 is
car.
Dominican. Yeah.
Yeah, he's Dominican. Yeah. Yeah, he's Irish.
Right.
So he's part Irish.
Part Italian.
Oh
Yeah.
no, wait, because John Cena, doesn't she say in Fast 10, I'd never noticed the Toretto's had such Nordic chins or something.
Right. Right. Yes.
Yeah, so he's also Northern European. He
Yeah.
is. He's the quadruple racial angel of the
Yeah,
world.
it's Fast and Furious movies and Star Trek movies where people just suddenly have siblings. It's either
Right.
like Toretto has a long lost siblings or Spock has long lost siblings, right? It's just like, and there's
And
these
Spock's long lost sibling has shown up to kill him and
yeah,
sleep with Shatner's broads.
right. It's like those two franchises you can just, and they also bring people back from the dead, right? And I don't know if Star Trek does it like Fast and Furious, where Fast and Furious is like, oh, the social media campaign wants us to bring Han back or somebody like that. Okay, well, let's bring them back.
Oh no,
So
they did it before there was social media. They were like,
oh,
what can we do now? Well, let's do
yeah,
an evil leaper. Like so
right,
in Quantum Leap, they had an evil leaper because
right,
by the time we got to the 80s, they'd gone, oh, it's gonna be evil versions of themselves. That's what it's
right,
gonna be. This time it's gonna be
yeah,
evil versions of themselves. So and they're gonna have goatee beards. What? Yep, they're gonna have goatee beards. And we're gonna have an evil leaper, and then we're gonna have evil Knight Rider. Wait, Knight Rider's not science fiction. Well, the car's kind of science fiction, right? But
right.
it's not like evil doppelganger with a goatee beard science fiction. Well, now it is. Hasselhoff is going to play an evil Michael Knight doppelganger,
Right.
but he's going to have a drawn-on Tony Stark goatee beard. What has happened to the world? It just look, we're going evil. That's what's happening.
Right.
We should do it more. There should have been an Evil Alf episode.
Yes.
I mean, there was some ones where other Melmac aliens came to
Yeah.
Earth, but I don't think
No,
I
like the
don't think they
goatee.
ever did like the goatee evil
Yeah,
Alf. Maybe they did. Oh, they did evil Kermit in one of the Muppet
that's
movies.
right. That's
He
right.
did.
They did.
Did he have a goatie or did he just
I don't
have
remember.
mustache? I think he had a
Yeah.
mustache, curly
Yeah.
Q mustache. Yeah, kids
Yo,
can't handle the goatee.
where did that? 'Cause it came from Star Trek, I guess, right? Because in Superman, Bizarro Superman didn't have a goatee. He was like blue or something, right? Wasn't he like
Yeah, I think so. Oh, pale white or something.
pale? Right. That's right. He's pale. Yeah. Yeah. So, I, yeah, it is funny because they could do that in Fast and Furious. And I think that's the franchise they could get away with the most. Is just have everybody with goatees, like even Michelle Rodriguez and Gal Gadot put on a goatee and be evil versions and fight each other, right? Like this big clash, right?
That would be amazing. Well, because they've already done. So they've already done. Jason Statham was like the evil version of
Right.
Dom before
Yeah.
he became the good version of Dom, and then
Yeah.
Dom had to go evil in
Right.
order to save the child that he had with the Brazilian woman,
Right.
who was in part 5 and 6, I
Part five.
think.
Yeah. And they had to kill her off because she cluttered things up. She's the only person
Right,
who
because
really
he
did
needs
die.
to be with Rodriguez.
Exactly.
So that's what it is. So she's
yeah.
like, I let you go off and have Rodriguez as your,
Yeah.
because he's like, well, look, we can't get rid of Rodriguez. She's an OG.
Right. Yeah.
Right, you can't come in halfway through and just get rid of an OG
Right. Yeah.
unless you have, die tragically in a car accident.
Right.
No, that's not a laughing matter. I'm just saying he did
Yeah.
in the middle of the series, and therefore he did leave. And every
Right.
subsequent episode, they'd be like, "Oh, don't bother Brian about it." What
Yeah.
you mean, Brian, the one that solved the problem every single time in the previous 7 movies?
Oh, you're talking
No,
about
you're
real
right.
life. I thought you were talking about Michelle Rodriguez's character who fake dies in a car accident.
Oh no, sorry,
Oh,
I
you're
was
talking
talking
about
about
real
Paul Walker. Sorry, and we
Oh,
all
right.
laughed at it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Okay.
laugh at it. No,
I was okay. No, yeah, because in the movies people die in car accidents and they come back to life. But yes, you're right. Paul
Oh, yeah.
Walker's character, right? They said he didn't die. He just drives off into the sunset, and
Right.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he can't even be bothered. However, Dom's sister, played by that woman who looks like if she ate a crumb of bread, she would die of overconsumption.
Right.
I mean, she is so far. She looks like when they like mummified skeletons wake up. in Hammer horror films or whatever.
Right.
That's what she looks like. Or in Indiana Jones, like those kind of like skeletons that pop up at the beginning during the mildly racist chase scene where Alfred Molina gets to play an Indian gentleman. Anyway, only Bobby Cannavale can get away with that now. Only Bobby Cannavale. In terms of other Italians playing, the only person who can get away with it would be Cannavale. He'd be wait, is Cannavale doing Indian? Yeah, I think he's doing Indian. Is that mildly racist? Oh, no, that's a lot racist. Do we like it, though? I think we kind of like it. It's Cannavale. Yeah. Everyone just decided they like Cannavale, and there's nothing I can do about it. Anyway. Yeah, I forget.
Well, you bring up a great point though about Jordana Brewster, who was like
Jordana Brewster. Right. Thank you. I was like Brewster. Why do I think Brewster? And I'm like, no, she's not Punky Brewster. Anyway, carry on.
Well, no, you bring up a great point. Like the movie series is like the most inclusive, right? In terms of like different ethnicities, and it's a very diverse cast.
Yeah.
But they don't really seem to bring in people that are overweight, right? They don't. They're still.
Well, there's Dom and The Rock.
Right, that's right. Yeah, the Rock, I guess. Yeah, he's still pretty buff, right? And Dom
but
is still
it's all buff on top of fat, though.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. But yeah, you're not going to have they're not going to have Melissa McCarthy. I mean, they should, but they
Although Statham and her in The Spy, I want to see them in Spy too.
Yeah. Yeah, or maybe he could mix it up, and though I guess he definitely maybe not. He's not inclusive in terms of different weight or body types, but he does. He's not ageist, right? Because he'll have Helen Mirren.
Right.
So I guess to that sense, that
she campaigned for a role in it. She wanted a role in it. She was like, I think she was like, if fucking Luke Evans and Jason Statham get to play, come on now,
right?
Come on, where's Mirren? Because that's the first thing. Well, because. Don't forget, Judi Dench is in the Riddick movie.
Exactly. Well, because he loved Judi Dench.
He loves the older British ladies.
Right. Yeah.
Do you think him and Dench had like a moment in their trailer where their eyes met across a steaming cup of chamomile tea?
I wonder. Again, going back to that, I should maybe bring up the Baldani Blake Lively thing, because it does sound like it was pretty rough, that situation. But the whole thing was like he would like want to go into her trailer and talk about stuff that had nothing, that like nothing to do with the film or whatever. It was like Vin Diesel like knocking on Judi Dench's trailer, being like, "Yeah, I thought we would like really go over this scene. No, not now, Diesel, get out of here. I'm talking to my family back in London.
I'm drinking some chamomile tea.
I can't be bothered. This is it was supposed to
fuck off, Diesel. Oh, leave me alone.
Yes.
I'm in here masturbating.
Right, exactly. Diesel's like, well, I'm not having her in it. You're rebuffing my advances. Yeah.
Dame Judi Dench rebuffs. That sounds like a porn title Rick Pepin could have made.
Rick Pepin. Yes. Yeah.
The Dench buffs Diesel.
Maybe it's a great way to come bring us full circle here on T-Force. Is Pepin directing Dench rebuffs Diesel, but
I would come on. You'd watch it. No, I was going to say what I love. We were talking earlier as well about posters and how posters misrepresent stuff. What I love about this movie is that from the front, the movie title is the name of the villains.
Right.
Like, when does that happen? You know what I mean? And so you think when you see the front cover, or I did when I first saw it, I thought, oh, T-Force, they're going to be the good guys, like the A-Team. This is T-Force or whatever. Right. You know what I mean? And away they go. They're going to be like cyborg mercenaries or whatever, and they're going to help little Timmy get his medicine back or whatever it is, while blowing up millions and millions of people. I assumed that was what it was going to be. Once I realized, oh no, this is like Dirty Harry meets RoboCop. I was like, oh, I'm all over this with it. I thought this is fantastic.
Well, the thing that made me think that the T-Force might be bad was when I saw that it had, Malibu, aka Deron McBee, and Evan Lurie as two of the robots. It's like the percentage of times they play good guys versus bad guys is low. Like they're usually a baddie,
Right.
especially in PM flicks. I mean,
yeah, and Evan Lurie's wonderful at it because Evan Lurie is, if he was a hero, you'd be like, oh God, I hate that guy. He's such a fucking punchable, smarmy kind of twazzick. But as a villain, you're like, oh, I love how fucking cocksure and smarmy old Evan Lurie is. He's so cock of the walk, isn't he? He's brilliant at it as well. He's fantastic.
Yeah,
and the thing, I think a thing that I preferred about this movie to say Hologram Man was in Hologram Man, I felt like it was very rinse and repeat, and it was always another big shootout with another big explosions, and none of the people win. Evan Lurie wins every single time, even if it's just him armed with a whisk or something. You know what I mean? Right. And so you kind of go, okay, well, this just gets a bit boring. What I like about T-Force is not only do you have the Scalia robot cat, sort of frenemy buddy comedy stuff happening, which I'm really enjoying. It's sort of like a 48 Hours or Dirty Harry kind of partner, grumpy sort of thing, which I'm loving. I'm loving that. And that's going on. Or you've got some robots are good, some robots are bad. You've got car chases. You've got it's not just rinse and repeat on the same thing with Scalia losing every time. Scalia wins quite a lot of the time. And that's what I hated about Hologram Man to some extent. That they lost so many times. I was like, I don't want them to lose. T-Force, Scalia wins. And if he's not winning, then he's sitting around being a robot racist. And I'm kind of secretly loving it.
Right. Well, the other thing, because I think I originally had Hologram Man above this, but watching it again, one of the reasons why I like this better than Hologram Man, kind of on a second viewing of both films, is Scalia is a much better hero than Lara, right? Like he brings so much more to the table than Lara does.
Yeah, definitely. By a bucket load.
Yeah.
I mean, if I would have had, if I was PM Entertainment, I would have gone, right, this is what we're doing. Yeah. Why they never did a PM Entertainment All Stars? Like, can you imagine, like Jack Scalia, Wings Hauser, C. Thomas Howell, and Gary Daniels fight Don the Dragon Wilson in, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And how fucking amazing! Like Don the Dragon Wilson and Cynthia Rothrock play like Hudson Hawk style villains. You know what I mean? Like fucking Richard E. Grant and Sandra Bernhardt. They're like just flamboyant, stupid, ridiculous villains who have like some take over the world thing. And then they're like, the only people they could call was PM Force. And it's just fucking Scalia, boom. And it just wouldn't you? Oh, man, it would be amazing.
I wonder if the reason why they didn't do that was because they
would have had to pay him through.
Well, that's probably part of it too. It's the price for all of them. It's like, just put them in each their own movie. You can make, Right. But they were also shooting so many movies at a time.
Yes.
That was the other thing. It was like, okay, let's just spread them all out.
Can we spare Daniels from the 4 other films he's shooting for us in Burbank somewhere?
Right, exactly.
We just need him for 10 minutes. He's just going to run across the thing in slow motion just to convince everyone that he's really in this movie. Even though he's not really in this movie, we're going to kill him off in the first 5 minutes. What, you did with John Amos? Yeah, like we did with John Amos.
Right. Because they could have made quite an epic where you could have had like all of these actors and then all of these stunt coordinators, right? So you've got like Rosado's doing stuff on one set, you've got Cole S. McKay doing scenes and kind of bringing all these people together. Yeah, I mean, but see, again, that's the thing, right? This is all pre Kevin Feige, I guess is how we're called. It's pre Stallone. And the Expendables.
But this is my point. I think people find it funny that I get this upset about it. But like the thing that really bothered me about the Expendables trajectory is that what it should have done is after the third one, right? First of all, the third one shouldn't have had fucking Glenn Powell in it,
right?
And Ronda Rousey. Shouldn't have had any of those.
Or Kellen Lutz. No Kellen Lutz.
Oh, fuck Kellen Lutz. Fuck him in his stupid face. Get them all out of that fucking. That is the worst atrocity because the way the Expendables should have worked, right, is you should have had Expendables 1, Expendables 2, Expendables 3, similar kind of plot, but without the young'uns, and you just have them go on a mission and they take out Mel Gibson and whatever,
Yeah.
blah 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 blah, and it ends. And you can have Kelsey Grammer because it's just
Yeah.
fucking weird that you have Kelsey Grammer,
Yeah.
and you can have Harrison Ford, and you can have all those cameos because they're all fantastic, and you can break Wesley Snipes out of a CGI jail, you know, or whatever they do in that movie, using a CGI helicopter. You can do all that. We'll give you all that. But then after the third one, and it would be fine if like Couture, Randy Couture or whatever, even Jet Li at this point, maybe, or Dolph Lundgren rather, Randy Couture and Dolph Lundgren. It would be fine if they hung around. But 4, 5, and 6 should have been sort of the next tier of action heroes.
Yeah.
So they should have had a PM Entertainment movie where they brought back Scalia and they brought back Don the Dragon Wilson and Cynthia Rothrock and Gary Daniels, and they brought them all back and they made that movie. Yeah. And then there should be the one where they bring in like the guys that you wouldn't think of PM Entertainment, but like the Davies and the Brent Huffs and the Sho Kasugis, and you know what I mean? Then you just bring in these guys. And I would seriously, with no joke or whatever, I would totally watch those. Now I know that like Alexander Nevsky and others have put like a bunch of, you know, Casper Van Dien and Don the Dragon Wilson and isn't oh man, I forgot his name right now.
Gruner.
Well, Gruner's in it, but no, he was
Matthias Hughes.
Yeah, I know he's put a bunch of those guys like in movies. The trouble is they're Alexander Nevsky movies, and Alexander Nevsky movies suck. They just suck. For someone who is so obviously a fan of the genre, the fact that he cannot, for the life of him, make a movie that doesn't fucking suck, it's very upsetting. I would have hoped he would have got better by now, because he's our last hope for that genre of DTV stuff.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, part of the thing is he's so full of himself, right? Like, I mean, the one that he just did, the Taken at Rio Bravo or Gunfight at Rio Bravo or whatever it was, it's he took this story of this Russian, actual Russian citizen who's like fought for the Union in the Civil War. And then like the guy just kind of retired in Chicago. That's all he did after the Civil War. But he turns it into, no, this guy just decides to go, you know, wandering the West and like getting into different things. And he's got to be like wearing like this like fancy leather vest and, you know, kind of like, oh, we're going to do the scene of him like walking with his cowboy boots on.
Nevsky is known for his fancy leather vests.
And then like, oh, I've got to have a scene of like Olivia Gruner talking about how great I am, and everybody's, you know, every scene is like, you know, it's like a Seagal stuff. It's like Seagal crap.
Wasn't Mark Dacascos? That was who I was thinking.
Yeah.
Wasn't he in one of the ones with?
He directed Showdown in Manila. He directed that one.
That
one had like the scene at the end that they just sort of shoehorned Don the Dragon Wilson, Gruner, and Rothrock in at the end, and it's like, okay, but you know, what are we doing here?
I wanted Millennium, or they were the people behind the Expendables, right? Millennium.
Right. Yeah.
I wanted Millennium to go, okay, great. We've made these billions of dollars around the world for these last 3 Expendable movies. Obviously, all of those guys want to move on. We're going to keep Couture and Lundgren for like the next one.
Yeah.
And we're going to introduce the PM Entertainment, like Scalia's back. And, you know, it would just be amazing. And, you know, Wings Hauser, Jack Scalia for the first time ever. You know?
Yes, exactly.
And it's just they have like a Hauser Scalia off. Like they just shout in each other's faces various like old man angry shouts at the sky kind of nonsense, you know what I mean? I don't like it why everyone drives so fast these days or whatever. They just have like a old man, you know what I mean?
Well, you know, I was wondering, did Scalia and Hauser even overlap at PM? I'm thinking they didn't, right? I think Scalia started with this one here in '94. And did Hauser even have any PM flicks after that late in the game? I don't think he did.
I don't think so. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Scalia starts in '93, but that's not in an action movie.
Right.
Hauser's is The Art of Dying the last Hauser one?
I think it might be, yeah.
Then that's 91. Yeah, he really does just those earlier movies, Killer's Edge, Art of Dying, and what's the other one that he does? Oh, Cold Fire.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. and then he's
Oh,
done
Living
with
to Die. He does
Living to Die. That
4.
was
Living
PM.
to Die. That's the
So
other
that's
one.
1990. Yeah. So he was kind of more in the early. I mean, Lorenzo Lamas is another one. I think who was kind of more in the earlier PM, and he kind of got to make some of the movies he wanted to make, like CIA and those ones. And then they start to kind of replace them. Then they bring in Don the Dragon Wilson, and then they kind of replaced him. They bring in Scalia, Gary
Tracy
Daniels.
Lords is throughout though.
That's
Tracy
right, Tracy Lords.
Lords
Yeah,
goes pretty much into the mid-90s with them.
yeah.
I
They
love
kind
that,
of
like, at a certain point, they're just like, Joe Piscopo, should we put him in a film? And
exactly. Yeah.
they just go hog wild with I mean, Donald Sutherland is
Yeah.
in a PM Entertainment film. Shannon Tweed is, but that may be one of those that they distributed, they didn't make,
I
though.
think so. Is it later? That's later in the process,
It's
right?
in
I think.
96, 97, yeah.
Yeah.
Executive Target. Then Michael Madsen does a couple,
Right.
of course.
Exactly. Yeah. I
That's
mean,
sort of in the Jeff Fahey era as well.
right, that later, and then and Gary Daniels kind of overlaps into that era. He did kind of mid '90s
Right,
into
because
that early
Recoil
2000s.
is 98.
Yeah,
And then Speakman, of course, has a small run with PM Entertainment, with
yeah,
Running Red and Land of the Free.
Land of the Free. Yeah, and then he had a small part in was it No Tomorrow or Hot Boys?
Hot Boys.
Hot Boys. That's right, Hot Boys. He was Silk the Shocker's sensei in Hot Boys.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
he was. Yes,
yeah,
in
exactly.
that memorable film, Hot
Right.
Boys.
Hot Boys, yeah. I mean, PM Entertainment, it is a fascinating thing that you get. I mean, you get movies like Skyscraper, where they've got, Anna Nicole Smith, and somehow they turn that into just absolutely fun, like action romp. That it has no business being anywhere near as good or as entertaining as it is.
Right.
And T-Force you could probably put in that category. Like, there's no reason we've probably seen tons of movies that are akin to T-Force, right? Where there's this idea of robotic police officers,
Right.
they kill people, all that kind of stuff. And they're not anywhere near as fun as this movie is.
No.
Yeah. And
No, I really, really did like this, and I'm glad I watched it, because I do think that sci-fi PM is sort of a mixed bag.
yeah.
But because it's not that easy to pull off, especially on the budget. Although I did get Dark Breed through on VHS, so I'm very excited to watch that this week.
Yeah, to check that one out
Very
too.
excited, yeah, because that's incredible. And in fact, that's one of the ones that the Focus Media, who have been putting out a few media books in Germany of some PM Entertainment movies that, unfortunately, by the time they get over here, are just prohibitively expensive.
Yeah.
To get one of them here is like $60. And as much as I love PM, and as much as I really, really, really want to see what high def PM looks like, because we've only ever seen these at good VHS quality at best, I am intrigued, but I can't spend $60 to bring Dark Breed on Blu-ray from Germany to America. No.
Yeah, because it's a fascinating idea of PM, like you said, on this kind of the high quality. Because I mean, the interesting things about PM, like Rich Haas from DTVC just brought this up when he was on. We were talking about Rage and Recoil. Is that they're all in TV aspect ratio, right? They're not in wide
4:3, yeah.
4:3, yeah. And so that's one piece of it, is that like modern TVs want the widescreen,
But they were
like,
all shot on film, so if they've gone back to the original film,
yeah.
it may be that they've been able to. They've claimed on their Facebook page, and again, it's on their Facebook page. But I've seen people who've ordered them and done reviews of them online and stuff, so I don't think they're lying. I've seen on their Facebook page that they say they've gone back to the original film, the 35 millimeter. So I'm like, well, if they did that, I mean, maybe there's a whole new dimension to these movies we haven't seen. Either that, or they've stretched out a 4:3 image and put black bars above it and gone, there you go, that's your widescreen.
Well, that's something you worry, because like, I mean, with how they were pumping these out, and the idea was that they were primarily, I obviously direct to video connoisseur, they're thinking about the video store, but they were primarily for cable, like HBO,
Right.
Those cable channels, they needed content, and then it was like, okay, we'll also stick them in the video store and see if we can get sell copies that way as well. But they were meant for the home viewing audience primarily. They weren't planning on having these, I mean, I'm sure some of them probably did have limited theatrical runs, but for the most part, That's what the goal was, and the market was robust enough at that time. Streaming hadn't come in and killed the market at that time. There were video stores all over the country that needed films to put in there. And then HBO needed to fill content. They could only show.
I tell the story. When I moved to Manhattan in 2009, there were still multiple video rental places,
right,
like on First Avenue in Manhattan, on prime locations. And that's as recent as 09. And people might be like, Granddad, I was born in 09 and now I'm 38 years old. I've had 17 children. Because that seems to be where I live now, is that someone will be like, I'll see someone, they'll be incredibly successful. They'll have 2 children and a Jeep and a wife named Tarquin or something. And you'll go, oh, well, you'll be talking about something from like the 2000, early 2000, whatever. They were like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was born in like 2010 or something. You're like, you were born 2010 and you already have like 14 children and a yacht in France. Right. You fucking bastard.
Well, because it's funny because one of the funny things about people that are slightly younger, they're born like maybe in the mid 80s, or late 80s, they think of Blockbuster as like this like nostalgic thing.
Yeah,
whereas for us who are older, we think of Blockbuster as the thing that killed all of our mom and pops.
Right.
But the thing was, like you said, Blockbuster still existed. I mean, I remember when I first started the site in 2007, Netflix had just released Instant. They just started, and Hulu was just coming out. And I remember at that time, like Netflix Instant, it didn't always play. And I remember I got the first Roku. It was like this box. Yeah. And like Netflix didn't even play on it properly.
You had to wind it up. It was like it was like David Lynch's television.
Right, to crank it. But I remember I was trying to watch a movie with my roommate, and she's like, "This is horrible," because it kept freezing, And then they improved the technology, and it was and once they improved the technology, it was like kind of just downhill at that point, where it was like, But I mean, early Netflix Instant had a lot of PM flicks on it. It was kind of a similar thing that they needed content, and
right? And this is why I mean, and it's funny now. If I was talking to like a kid now, they would think I sounded so fucking old when I say this next sentence. I can remember when Netflix was like the Tubi of the day. I remember when Netflix was all B movies and like genre stuff and horror stuff and weird action films and foreign movies, and like it was all the gonzo stuff that you wanted. And then occasionally you'd get like The English Patient or fucking Casino or something.
Well, they also had Criterion films in the early
stages. Right. In the early days. Yeah.
Criterion, Criterion, and they had PM stuff. It was like Lorenzo Lamas actioners. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, and that's how Netflix should have stayed. If Netflix should have stayed, I tell you this right now, Matt. If Netflix had stayed that, we wouldn't be in the trouble we're in today. I'm just saying, as a nation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what happens, right, is that Netflix decides, oh, hey, we're making all this money. What if we made our own shows?
And then that was a mistake. Unless you're gonna hire Pepin and Mary, don't say like if they'd gone, let's make our own new PM entertainment films. Fuck and yes, capital F, capital Y. Get Mary and Pepin back in the seats. You get fucking you get your Spiro Rosadas to do your thing. Suddenly Vin Diesel wants in PM Entertainment. We're like, no, fuck you, Vin Diesel. The Rock tries to come in and like save some Jack Scalia franchise, and everyone instead of like the Fast and Furious where he really saves the franchise, he'll come into a Jack Scalia and just be like wildly outmanned. Scalia will just outman the Rock. And then The Rock's like, I wish I hadn't done a PM Entertainment film. And he's like, yeah, fuck off, you sissy. And then Scalia would, can you imagine if that was the world we lived in? And people just skipped in Meadows for like 3 hours in the afternoon, ate a big cheesecake, and then watched a PM Entertainment film. Fuck me, would that be delightful, wouldn't it?
Because I think at that point, because once Netflix starts ramping things up, Disney and Fox and Comcast, who owned Hulu, they're like, oh, we got to start and then they were all like, oh, you know what? We don't want our movies on Netflix. Let's make our own streaming service and put our own stuff on there. God, and it's like, none of them would have felt the need to do that. They would have been no.
I started a PM Entertainment VHS collection and said, fuck everybody. I'm going to stay home. I'm going to eat a big cake and I'm going to watch a PM Entertainment film because I've earned it. God damn it. I deserve to feel pretty.
Well, because now we live in this weird place where it's like this Wild West where it's like you have YouTube. It's like our best source of PM flicks now.
Right,
If you don't have
right.
them on VHS, and so yeah, you know you got to get your cake or your pizza or whatever, and you know like yeah, I mean
Oh yeah, watch some PM Entertainment films. In fact, if you
yeah,
if you Google like I think PM Entertainment film lists or whatever, you can find pretty easily lots of YouTube playlists where you
yeah,
could just sit and all day you could. In fact, we live in a world where you could tap a few things on your phone,
yeah.
have pizza shot at you through a pizza cannon, through a special pizza hole that you've made in your wall, and you've done a deal with a local pizzeria that says, look, when I press this button on my phone, $20 will be deposited in your bank
Right.
account, and you want to shoot cannon style using this pizza cannon that I built through the hole. You could do this, Matt. This would be conceivable. Pizza cannons of the future. Shoot a pizza at you without ever having to get off the seat, which you've also carved a toilet out of, which is bedecked with tree-shaped air fresheners because he still hasn't figured out how to empty it. You can sit watching PM Entertainment films in that state of luxury for the rest of your life on some of these YouTube playlists.
Yeah, I mean, the direct video connoisseur YouTube site where I created a PM playlist and you know I'm adding movies. Well, this one here I did. I think I've got two versions. I think I took out the one that was edited because I first added it thinking like, okay, because the first thing I look for when I set up a PM film is it in English? So
Yeah.
because a lot of times they're dubbed, and so if it's in English, then I'm good.
I
But
find that with porn.
yes, exactly. That's the same thing too, right? You want the porn to be in English. Exactly. But then the
I want
second
to
thing
see
is
what conversation leads to. I want the cable repair guy from T
right.
Force to
Yeah.
come in, and I want to know how cable repair guy from T Force becomes the fulcrum for the story point that Maxwell Caulfield figures out he likes to be a cuck.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, because
That
then the
is a
second
sentence you couldn't say without us having watched T Force and
no,
Animal Instincts.
and
Yep.
exactly. Well, because the other thing I look for is it edited, right? And so the moment
Right.
I hear a swear cut out,
Yeah.
or if I feel like that scene was probably having nudity, and because it's not like I need nudity in my PM flicks, but if nudity was in the original PM flick, I
You
want
want to
it.
see the original nudity.
Exactly. Exactly.
No,
And
but
so
I noticed No Danger. It
yeah,
was on, sorry, Pure Danger was edited on Tubi.
right.
And I was, or the Roku channel. I think it
Yeah.
was the Roku channel.
Yeah.
One of the free stream with commercial movie things, Pluto TV maybe. And I saw that it was the Film Rise version. And it was
Yeah.
the one where, and you know, as you've watched now, Pure Danger, the first 20 minutes is swearing. I mean, the whole
Yes.
movie is swearing. So
Right.
it was literally like people were talking, and, just, and I'm like, I'm
Right.
not watching this film.
No, you can't watch it. So what I found on YouTube is there's a version with Finnish subtitles. Um,
Oh,
so
that's
I learned
always
what
good grade, PM, the Finnish
Finnish
subtitle.
subtitles. I learned what the word shit is in Finnish, but now I can't remember. It's something like hito or something like that, or
Okay.
hilto. Yeah. But
Do you turn the color down and pretend that you're watching like old Bergman films?
right, it's
Well,
like
Don the Dragon Wilson is like roundhouse
right.
kicking someone. You're
Yeah.
just hearing Max von Sydow in your
Well,
ear, just being like, well, the enormity of existence.
right, right. One of my favorite directors, Aki Kaurismäki, right? He's a Finnish director, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, he had a film in the theater here recently, and I missed it. And so it's like that's another thing would have got me to the theater is Finnish auteur directed film, right?
And where is he on the Jarmusch scale?
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, I think they were
Is he
friends.
early Jarmusch or is he more
I
recent
I
Jarmusch?
think they actually might have been friends. I think he may have used one of
Oh,
the
Jarmusch
actors.
is definitely
Yeah,
friends with a Finnish director.
I think he may have used an actor from one of Kaurismäki's films in one of his
Oh,
movies.
a
I think,
thousand percent.
like Night was that Night on Earth with the cab drivers?
Yeah.
Yes, it was. It was Night on Earth with the cab because the Finnish guy was one of the cab drivers, I believe. So yeah, so
And
uh,
he would swan about the Croisette in Cannes, dressed in his Pee Wee Herman suit, dropping names of Finnish directors
oh yeah,
to try and
no,
sound important. Well, you know, I'm friends with. Sorry, I didn't catch his name.
The director's Aki Kaurismäki.
Kaurismäki, that's it.
Yeah.
He's like, well, of course I'm friends with Kaurismäki, and all the French, liberal news media are there on the Quizette. They're like, oh, Kaurismäki, I want to hear, and like that. And so, like, they just have him talk. They just have fucking Jarmusch just holding court and talking about Kaurismäki and Finnish films and finding PM Entertainment stuff on YouTube.
Exactly. No, because Night on Earth, right? It's like, I think it's like different parts of the world. Yes, and I think there's one that's in Finland. I'm looking at that. I'm seeing the actor now.
They're definitely. I mean, listen, Jarmusch and Finland. They're as synonymous with each other as peanut butter and chocolate in this country.
Well, because he has the one right with Isaac de Bancole.
Well, you said it, not I said it.
But
I heard you say Isaac de Bumblehay.
Right.
I don't think that's the name.
Right. No. But
I heard Isaac's de Bumblehay.
It's right. He actually there's a Sopranos episode where he plays a priest, Isaac de so it's like
Isaac Bumblehay.
Isaac de Bancole, yes. Yeah, I don't know if I'm even saying it right exactly, but
Wait, is it Isel de Bungle? What?
So it's Isaac, but I think it's pronounced Isaac. And then it's de Bancole.
Oh,
like
debacle, like debacle. So it's like there's been some shenanigans. There's been a debacle, and it's Bumblehead.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, you mean Isaac's de Bumblehead? Right, exactly. Yeah, there we go.
So you could see why I'm between Jarmusch and Lynch, right? If you were going to ask me, like, I am a Jarmusch guy.
I'm a de Bumblehead.
Right, I have to.
If you were to ask me behind Kaurismäki or de Bumblehead, I would definitely be a de Bumblehead guy.
Right, exactly. Now, the Night on Earth is actually on Max, so if people want to see, want to see these actors, this movie, and see
I'm gonna bet that never in the history of the world has a PM Entertainment podcast diverged into jokes about Finnish directors nobody has ever heard of except Jim Jarmusch.
Right.
That's never happened. You don't get those action podcasts where and this is the thing, is most action podcasts are like 45 minutes and then they're out. And most of them are taking the piss out of the films, and most of them are obnoxious fucking yakety yak assholes. With us, it's at the 2-hour 39 mark. Well, no, we had that break in the middle, but we had a break. It's at the 2-hour 30 mark that we just start fucking name dropping Finnish directors like it's nothing. Like we just woke up this morning and went, I think I will watch a de Bumblehay movie.
It's funny because when I do Seagal movies with Scott Murphy from All 90s Action, there always seems to be a point in the episode where we talk about auteur, like prestige films. It's like the last time we were talking about Pedro Almodovar, like somehow he came up. Because you know what it was he was talking about how action stars are horrible at love scenes. And we're saying like probably the only one is Pierce Brosnan, but that's probably because the actress in the scene feels lucky that she's doing the love scene with him. It's not like
Roger Moore.
Roger Moore. Yeah, we didn't mention Roger Moore's another, but but like you were talking about like all the other ones, but I was,
no, I mean I watched that The Donor. It's with Jeff Wincott in it, thinking mistakenly that it was going to be an action film, and it was some kind of erotic thriller, and so. And so there I am having to watch, he was either in a Canadian tuxedo or he was shirtless. Neither one do you want to see, but he's either in a full denim outfit or he's just in a with a shirt off, and he's just being molested by these, poor actresses who are paid God knows what to ride around with Wincott. No offense to Wincott, we love Wincott, but I'm just saying, like, you don't want to see it, Matt. What you want to see is Wincott greased up, Ryan House kicking some guy in the face and then throwing another guy through a plate of glass. That's what you want to see. You don't want to see Wincott making the love.
So there's a movie, Battle Queen 2020. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a Julie Strain softcore kind of movie.
Okay. Yeah, no, I hadn't heard of it, but yeah, sure. Now I know the reference.
So Wincott is in that movie. The thing is, Tubi only has the edited version, and he's supposed to have a love scene with. He has a love scene with Julie Strain, but they cut it in the Tubi version.
To
Yeah,
be. Well, I guess it's not to be then.
right, exactly.
To be or not to be, and the answer is if you remove my Wincott love scene, I shun you, to be.
Right.
So it's to be or not to be. The answer is not to be.
To be. Yeah.
Find the VHS and watch it in all its glory. I assume it only came out on VHS. I assume they only had a very short run of it.
Yeah, it's a fast. I mean, it's a Canadian production. It's supposed to like it takes place in some weird future where people are living underground, and it's again Julie Strain and Jeff Wincott. I meant to review.
By the way, that's not going to be a weird future. That's going to be just our future.
Yes, yeah, exactly, exactly. But
it was weird. I realized today we talked a lot about Roger Moore. By the way, all themes are intertwined. Right. This is how we know we're riding the right wave, Matt. You and I is that we are. Everything is intertwined.
Yeah.
Everything is intertwined. So Roger Moore, right? We've talked about him a lot this episode. You know what I mean? A paragon of masculinity and sly winking and double entendres.
Yes.
But he was in what is now, hands down now, the most scientific, prophetic of all the James Bond movies. Yes, the same one that has an amphibious gondola and a double-taking pigeon.
Right.
Moonraker.
Yes.
Is now officially a proper science fiction film.
Yeah.
We are now living, Matt, in the early days of Moonraker. Like the movie Moonraker is coming up. You know what I mean? Not too far in the future. The moment Musk grows a Drax-like evil demon devil in a German expressionistic movie beard. Once he's got like that little black pointy beard and is forcing everyone who works at SpaceX to wear ludicrously like baggy beige overalls. Once that happens and Musk is just shooting fucking shit into the sky and be like, oh, I put a satellite in the fucking sky that, you know, if someone bad mouths me in fucking Birmingham, England, I'm just nuking the whole island. Or whatever it is, right? Oh, I heard someone say that I did a Nazi salute. Yeah, well, you did do a Nazi salute. I didn't do a Nazi. Yeah, well, you did though, didn't you? Because you wouldn't do it in front of your grandmother. Anyway, well, maybe you would because your grandmother's doing it back at you. You wouldn't do it in front of my grandmother because she was Jewish. You fuck. You Nazi fuck. But anyway, you know, once he's doing that, everyone's running around in the beige jumpsuits. We are living in Moonraker. And that's like 10 years away, tops. 10 years away, Musk is fucking Drax in fucking Moonraker, and James Bond, the silliest, the one that people claim is the worst and the silliest of all the James Bond films, becomes an actually prophetic science fiction classic up there with 2001: A Space Odyssey.
It tells you that the United States of America, the country that we live in right now, is not a serious country.
Not a serious country.
It's not. The people who live here are not serious people. We live amongst not serious people. The fact that Moonraker is because what's happened is.
Were you saying not serious people? Not serious.
I didn't even think about that, but that's actually a good way to say it. Yeah.
I thought that's what we live amongst. Well, because your not went from being a very definite not to being like Nazi. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So is he just saying Nazi people? You can call them Nazis. It's fine. Like they're coming for us anyway, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
well, no. I mean, it. That's the problem, right?
Once they've heard my podcast, they're fucking. That's it. I'm out. They're gonna have an AI bot listen out for my podcast. That Jon Cross is calling you a cunt again. Oh, okay. We better go get him, drag him out by his feet, and pull his foreskin up over his head.
Well, the funny thing about my podcast is that I have discovered, even though I'm always saying shit like this on this podcast, and like especially when I do like the solo ones, I really kind of go off on things like that. And so one of the podcasts that I was tied to on Spotify was like Knowledge Fight, which is these two guys who make fun of Alex Jones, right? So that was one.
Right.
But the other one was Joe Rogan Experience. And I was like, this podcast is so far from Joe Rogan. Like people who come to this from Joe Rogan and they hear me, you know, saying like, yeah, America is not a serious country. Right. Like they're listening and be like, what is
America's the only country on the planet that watches James Bond movies and go, you know what? Those villains get a terrible raw deal. All they're trying to do is give people somewhere to work. They're trying to expand job programs.
Exactly.
Right, but they're, mining diamonds from Africa to shoot into space to turn into lasers in order to hold countries to ransom. Yeah, I know, but they're employing a lot of people, and even though they're billionaires and the people they're employing are wearing jumpsuits that they don't even get a choice in, they're just given. They're just given jumpsuits and told this is all you can wear, and then they walk round and round and round a big volcano for a few. They looked at that and went, "That's the world we want to live in. We want to live in a jumpsuit volcano lair, goatee beard, James Bond villain world." And that's what's happening, Matt. That's just it is what is happening. Soon enough, Trump will go down to jackets that don't have collars. His hair will fall out because it's already going very thin and white and weird looking. It'll all fall out. He'll go to like collarless Beatles jackets. He'll start stroking a cat. Seriously, he's going to be Blofeld. Musk is Drax, and we are fucked. Fucked. So we better enjoy PM Entertainment movies and our pizza cannon.
And I think for people listening, if you're watching PM Entertainment films and you're siding with the baddies, I guess that's, just know that when you watch PM Entertainment films and you side with the baddies, like you would in a James Bond movie, just know that our heroes are roundhouse kicking them out of windows and they're exploding in vans. That's the world
Jack
that
Scalia is staring you down with his masculine face and then shooting you in the ass.
One of the reasons why I think we need PM back is that that's kind of what you would get. I mean, today, if it was the movie, right, it would be a health
Land of the
insurance
Free
executive.
2, William Shatner and Jeff Speakman are back. And then everyone was like, weirdly, William Shatner's more agile at 99 or however old William Shatner is than Jeff Speakman is right now.
Right. Well, the other thing too is like health insurance executives, they make the perfect baddies. And I mean, this building that comes up in every PM film, this big glass building that we have in this film.
That could be a big pharmacy.
Roundhouse kicking a health insurance CEO out of that building on fire. I mean, that's right. People would pay a lot of money to see something like that. It's like it's
and look, I want to be very clear. We are advocating it in movie only.
Movie phone, right?
Because that's where we're meant to take out our catharsis in movies. Yeah, blow shit up. Be like James Glickenhaus. Be like, I'm taking over 42nd Street. I'm setting fire to something, and a hooker's gonna die. Okay, here we go. It's late. That you've got to be Glickenhaus about it. You've got to be Pepin and Merry about it. You've got to just be like, why is these two robots having sex wearing like weirdly convenient skin? Like at one point, don't they like paint like a guy's face on or whatever, and his eyeball and everything?
Right, that was Hologram Man. Yeah.
Oh, and Hologram Man, that was it. Right. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because like today, right? Like one of the big things is that a big reason why.
But there is a sex scene in T-Force between the two robots, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the awkward robot sex.
Oh yeah, okay, there we go. The awkward love scene.
Yeah. But I mean, one of the things about PM films is that what I would call baddie in a can, right? Was you'd have a racist. You just bring somebody in, have them say the N-word a few times, and then Gary Daniels will roundhouse kick them through a window.
That's what we have in Pure Danger.
Pure Danger, yeah. But like now it's like like the idea is that like if somebody posts something on social media about something that happened, like, there was a robbery near the subway, you're going to get like this whole pile of racist responses. And it's like, you understand that you are the baddie in the PM film that wants to roundhouse kick you through a window that everybody applauds and cheers for.
I did a video about this on AfterMovieDiner.com because I felt like it was sort of fair game, because it's a question that I ask myself all the fucking time. Every like minus maybe a couple of fucking Jim Caviezel movies and one or two Mel Gibson movies, every film on the planet and every book on the planet and every rock song or pop song on the planet, apart from the ones by Kid Rock and Ted Nugent, every like damn near every bit of media or literature on the planet from day one, including the fucking Bible, including the fucking made up Bible, rich people, fat cats, megalomaniacs, politicians, the police, whatever it is, all these people in all these movies are the villains. Like, so this is where you have to understand, like, what is it that these people watch? Like, this is what I don't understand. Like, do they watch like Roadhouse and side with Ben Gazzara? Like, all he's trying to do is, knock down a useless titty out roadhouse.
Right.
That's all he wants to do, and he wants to bring in some commerce into town. Why is everyone resisting?
Yeah, he wants to knock down the double deuce and put it in J.C. Penney. How do you not love that?
How do you not love that? What? Yeah. What do you get from Double Deuce except titty dancing on a bar and blind blues music?
Right. Yeah. That has to be right. That's the that you're siding with Ben Gazzara, and Ben Gazzara
is Patrick Swayze the villain of Roadhouse for the people who either for the Trumps of the world and the Musts of the world, or for the people who support the Trumps and the Musts of the world?
Right.
Do they watch Smokey and the Bandit and side with the police?
Right, side with Jackie Gleason. Right.
And
I bet you anything those people would be like, oh, Roadhouse is awesome. I love seeing Patrick Swayze, kick ass, stuff like that. It's like, no, you are pissed off that Marshall T got his ass kicked by Swayze, and you're pissed off that Ben Gazzara got stabbed with, or whatever, but like that's
you don't get to have Swayze and Trump. You have to pick.
Yes, exactly.
You can't have Swayze and
yes,
you can't even have. I'm sorry, because I know he's as nutty as a bag of deep fried frogs.
Right.
But you can't even have Tom Cruise and Trump. Like, I'll take Tom Cruise. I don't care. I'll take Scientology with it. I'll deal with it. I'll figure it out.
Right.
But you can't have Tom Cruise, because Tom Cruise would be fighting your big evil corporation.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He would be fighting, like he would be, he would probably be figuring out, because he'd probably work for like a SpaceX thing.
Right.
And he'd probably figure it out that actually they were corrupt, and he'd go after the people who were corrupt, even if he'd worked for the company for years. So you don't get John Wick. You don't get, and I know Sylvester Stallone's going to go work with Trump, and it breaks my fucking heart. Yeah. But you don't even get Rambo.
Right. Wait, no, so you don't get the early Rambo. So the most recent Rambo, the Last Blood, that one is definitely, Trumper. He's going to Mexico. Blowing up a bunch of Latinos. That one you get to have, but you don't get the other ones, right? You don't get the first one in particular, right?
You
don't get the.
You don't get Rocky. Rocky's really the one where I'm like, you don't get to keep Rocky.
No, you don't get. Yeah, no, they don't. Yeah, and to be honest, like, you don't get PM Entertainment films, because how many PM Entertainment films have the evil corporation? I mean, Hologram Man, evil corporation, right? This film didn't have the evil corporation. It did have
Actually, it did. The city is corrupt.
That's right. Yeah.
Because they funded this lunacy in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And
because really he's working for they're trying to clean up their mess. Like that's what it is. Like this is all about evil people trying to clean up their mess.
Yeah.
And in the midst of it, there is a very touching love story about how Jack Scalia fell in love with a robot.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and I think part of the thing with PM Entertainment is that PM Entertainment would always do this sort of baddie in a can thing. Like, they never really developed their baddies. You knew they were bad. The only way that a baddie was developed really was by blowing shit up. Right. Like, Slash Gallagher and Hologram Man, he's blowing up shit. That's how you know he's bad. Right. But ultimately, but then there was always this kind of push and pull. They would always kind of put in a second baddie or a second, the hero would kind of have to fight more than one thing a lot of times in PM. There's more nuance in PM than people realize, because
there's nuance and bounds in PM. I mean, even in T-Force, I feel like you say, Philip K. Dick is not too far from the point. Like, there is some real The Android's Dream of Electric Sheep or whatever parts of this film that I fully 1000% appreciated. Also, even if it was just in 4:3, the idea of having a cleaned up PM and seeing some of this cinematography. I mean, weird thing is, the only thing PM did not do well was the music. The music in almost every PM film is utterly fucking abysmal. It's always some tone deaf, eczema suffering child on a Casio keyboard falling asleep while it's awful. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
But so they didn't do that well. But the cinematography for some of these films is really, really quite stunning. And I would love to see them even in 4:3 on my 80-inch. That would still be, that's a good 4 and a pretty strong 3.
Yeah, and that's so I mean, this Exactly. Ken Blakey is the guy who does a lot of these. So Richard Pepin did the earlier ones as cinematographer, but then Ken Blakey takes over, and he does a ton of these. And it's almost like his work with guys like Rosados, and so like him working with both the director and then the action director. It's the way he tied these things together. I mean, I get the sense from the way Gary Daniels described Recoil, which was directed by Art Camacho, but when he talks about it, he goes, it was action directed by Spiro Rosados. I get the sense that for a lot of these, we're going to be talking about Pure Danger at some point, directed by C. Thomas Howell, the director is kind of secondary to the process.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
C. Thomas Howell's just like, I want this to blow up and that to run over that, and I want these people to die and that person, whatever. Go do it. I'm going to be in my trailer doing lines of blow with the 15th woman that I've paid to be in my movie to take her top off.
Right. Yeah. But he's got to remember to take off his fake mustache, because otherwise he's going to get coke all in it. Right. So the one time he forgets, right, that the script supervisor's freaking out, like, you didn't have coke in your nose in this scene. It's like, we got to write in, coke. Yeah. But no, it's like.
Well, that's why during the love scene that he shares with Joan Severance in that classic straight to video movie Payback, in the middle of the love scene, everyone thinks that they're referencing the A Postman Always Rings Twice by like pouring flour all over each other.
Yeah.
While they're in flagrante delicto, but they're not. What they're doing is covering up the fact that Howell just had a face full of cocaine.
Right.
So in the midst of the love, like, Joan Severance is looking at him and like, really? I've got to pretend to be having sex with this cocaine-covered fiend? And the director, Anthony Hickox, don't ask me how I know all this.
Right.
Don't ask me how I know all this. But Anthony Hickox, who, by the way, made also Waxwork 2 with Bruce Campbell in it. But Anthony Hickox...
right, I think he passed away recently, unfortunately.
He did. He went, oh, fuck it. Just pour flour all over him and get on with it. She's like, I don't want flour all up in my bits. He's like, you can put flour in your bits. Get on with it, Severance. What do you want? Do you want me to fire you and have to pay you severance? Severance. Get on with it. Don't ask me how I know, Matt. I'm not telling you.
Hickok is another one of those unsung heroes of the direct-to-video world. I shouldn't say unsung, because he's sung for us, right? We know him.
I've sung many times for Hickox.
Yeah, exactly.
He brings me around to his house, and he likes me to make him a cuckold. It's quite weird. It's quite weird. Yeah. And Maxwell Caulfield plays him,
right?
Which is weird in the scene that we're in with him. I don't know what's happening, and I've gone quite peculiar.
Sorry. Well, maybe this is. I guess because I guess at this stage with kind of how we've kind of gotten off. I don't say we've gotten on the rail, because it's still PM based, the conversation. But I guess as we're wrapping up, anything else on T-Force that we didn't mention, or?
I mean, just that I really liked it. I really did like it. I thought that I genuinely thought that the sort of buddy comedy back and forth really held it together, because the action is great, but it's like B tier PM. It's good, but it's not, it's not like Rage or whatever. It's not like Land of the Free or whatever. It's not full blown A tier. Everything happens every 5 minutes PM entertainment. But it's very, very strong. But then you add to that Scalia being the best he's been probably in anything. I'm just judging him based on the 3 films I've seen him in, but I'm saying this is his best performance. You've got, I think, some really nice effects. I think some of the, like, especially the old chestnut of, you film over a human's body, but he lifts up a fake robot hand kind of thing. Yeah. That's always really nice. I love scenes like that. That always makes me very happy. I just think all round it makes my top 10, and it might even be like 6. It might even be that close to the top 5.
Yeah, it's definitely up there for me as well. Like you said, on an action level, there's a few that you'd put up, which it's crazy to say that you would be putting anything above this.
No, I know. I'm sorry.
But you're right. But it's what makes PM so great is that you look at these scenes, you go like, wow, I can name this movie that's got it even better. Or this one, And so when you're judging on the PM scale, it's like, there's so many that have done. There's other ones, but like you said,
it's like the PM entertainment Entertainment scale is like the Wings Hauser scale. It's a tough scale to scale.
Yes.
It's a tough scale to climb over, because they took, both of them took such heights, such broad swings, such amazing, just cacophonous, rapturous, wild, mad ideas, and just put them out into the world, that it's very tough. Even if you're mid-tier Hauser, or even like lower tier Hauser, it's very tough to get back to those heights when you've scaled them, because PM and Wings Hauser, and then the combination of PM and Wings Hauser. I mean, fucking hell, the only one that's really not up to par is Coldfire, but the other three, Stone Cold, the other three could go in my top 5 any day of the week or month.
Yeah, Coldfire is the one that I got a kick out of, but you're right, it doesn't quite reach the heights.
Well, compared to Killer's Edge, where he's like threatening hardware store managers with a gun. Just very angry in that movie, and facing down across the Zadar. Like, you've got Killer's Edge, then you've got the 2 that he directs himself, Art of Dying and
Living to Die.
Living to Die, which, talk about cinematography. And by the way, 2 of the best soundtracks of any PM films are the Wings Hauser ones.
Oh, the saxophone in those ones is just absolutely amazing.
Top tier sax.
I mean, the lines in Living to Die, like, who's putting the bite on Milton, Art of Dying, poor Kathleen Kidmont having to do that sex scene with all the food and stuff, and Wings Hauser like complaining that he needs his ass powdered more. I mean, just insane, insane stuff. And, I mean, PM, you never knew what you're going to get with PM, and. But I think with T-Force is like a good, like you say, it's a good, like, if you're doing a marathon of PM flicks, this is a good one to slot it in the middle somewhere, and it'll get you through. It'll get you into the next ones. In
fact, I'm gonna look quickly. I think I've made a PM entertainment list of ones that I've watched so far, and I don't. If I sort it by my rating, your highest rating, where does this come? So I have this at number 5. So far at the moment, my top 5, according to the way I rated them on IMDb, and again, I would, sorry, not on IMDb, on Letterboxd. So this is the way I rated them on Letterboxd. I probably would go back and redo some of these ratings, but I have my top 5 as Living to Die, Inferno, the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, Zero Tolerance, Guardian Angel, and T-Force. Those are my top 5. I would probably swap out Guardian Angel with Rage. Like, I would probably swap that out, and I would also bring Killer's Edge and Art of Dying like up a bit. But those are all my top tier. I mean, those 5. Come on, who's arguing with those 5?
Yeah, I mean, so I have T-Force as number 8, looking at my top 10, but I think I would move it up. I think so. I've got Hologram Man at 4. I think I might sling that one down. I mean, Recoil is my number 1, Sweeper is my number 2, Zero Tolerance, and I think Zero Tolerance, I just have a love for it because of seeing poor Mick Fleetwood get plugged between the eyes. Last Man Standing. So I also have Skyscraper a little high. Maybe I could put, T-Force and Rage may go above Skyscraper, but I love, there's a sequence in there, especially with Duran McBee / Malibu. There's some really fun stuff in that one, but and I've got Living to Die right behind T-Force. That is my number 9.
And you have to realize that I have Living to Die and Inferno at 4.5 stars. And then the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 movies, 10 movies are all 4-star movies. So it's only ordering it that way because the Living to Die and Inferno are apparently my top 2. And then you've got another 10 that I could order in any given way. And those are Zero Tolerance, Guardian Angel, T-Force, Last Man Standing, Rage, The Sweeper, The Silencers, Pure Danger, Killer's Edge, and The Art of Dying. Those are my next thing. And then I have like 3.5. So I have like a whole ton of 3.5. So it's PM Entertainment, like, they're all of them, and this is 30 of the movies. So I've watched 30 of their movies. So I have it at that kind of scale.
I think I've done like 40 something. I know they're in the 40 club on the site, so they've got some maybe like 44, 45 at this point, and it's like I don't know how many of those I would say I didn't like. Like I don't think I've come out of 90 minutes of PM and go, I didn't enjoy myself in some way, and for a production company to have that kind of hit rate, where, and again, I
Yeah.
haven't really delved deep. I mean, Hollywood Safari is probably one of the deeper ones that was a Don the Dragon Wilson kids movie that was all over the place and a mess, and so
Of course, we didn't mention we said earlier. See, I was
yeah,
wrong about this. We said earlier they never did a PM Entertainment best of
right.
cast, but in 2000, one of the last movies directed by Richard Pepin, we do get Epicenter with
Oh,
Tracy
right,
Lords,
yes.
Jeff Fahey, and Gary
Gary
Daniels.
That's right.
So you
Yes.
don't get Wings Hauser and Jack Scalia, but
Right.
those three,
Yeah.
those are like PM Entertainment top level
Yeah,
stuff,
that's a
right?
good point. Yeah, that's a good point. So, yeah, I think PM for people listening out here, like, so most people listening, of course, they know PM. They're listening just because we're doing this movie. Like, they're like, oh, he's doing T-Force. Let's hear them talk about T-Force. But I think especially for younger listeners who aren't as familiar with PM, go on YouTube, just pick out some. I think, I've got the letterbox list. You can go check and, look at some, but just start, rabbit hole. Go in the
Yeah.
IMDb rabbit hole. Just look up a name like Richard Pepin and see what he's done, and just start picking movies off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't don't just pick Taken from Behind 2 and 3 or whatever those movies were. So my review of Epicenter, and bear in mind I watched this back in 2019 apparently
Yeah.
in July. My review of Epicenter was yes, and I gave it 2.5 stars. So even my lowest PM, even the one that I consider like not their best work, is only 2.5 stars, which is still better than most films.
Yeah.
So I said, yes, it takes whole scenes and sequences from other movies. And yes, it's a 2000 PM Entertainment movie where they've just got to the point where they're throwing 20 years of cliches in a bucket, spinning it around and splashing it on the screen. But for a spy espionage, action, disaster movie, family drama starring Gary Daniels, Tracy Lords, and Jeff Fahey, it's actually weirdly watchable and pretty well done.
It is. Yeah, no, exactly. It's the best way to think of it. I don't remember what my review was. I don't think I gave it great numbers myself. It's definitely one of those ones that my computer, of course, doesn't want to load it up. But yeah, I mean, again, I think I was doing it more for Gary Daniels than PM, because I didn't really think of it as, I wasn't actively searching out PM to that extent. I think at that time it was more like I'm searching out Gary Daniels, but then it became like, no, you got to do all of the Gary Daniels. I'm sorry, all the PM flicks as well. Yeah. And so I can't remember what I called it. I talked about the fact that like nothing really happens except for the chase scene borrowed from Speed, followed by excitement by repetition. So I was definitely harder on it. I think if I watched it again, my hunch is that I would, especially, I reviewed this one in 2010. So having gone through the 2010s now and seen what DTV has become in the 2010s, I imagine I would go back and watch another 90s one and suddenly, give it a better, I think that's the other thing too, is that the 2010s direct-to-video movies take a dive quite a bit. The quality goes down, and it's like suddenly these ones from the 90s just feel, and like something like 2000, Epicenter, it feels like a fresher breath air, or fresher breath air, breath of fresh air. You know what I mean? But yeah. So I think it's the other thing is that direct-to-video, the quality of direct-to-video has fallen off so much, which is crazy to think that we're talking about these as quality, but there is a quality to these that,
Oh, there is. No, and that's absolutely true. And I think that it really is a shame that when you see what I call sort of the Nevsky-cation of sort of these movies is, on one hand, you're like, well, at least they're keeping Cynthia Rothrock in travel coupons or air miles or whatever it is, so that she can go around the world and dive into tiny caves and hang glide off the back of a whatever, jumbo jet or whatever she's been doing. She's always doing something.
Right,
and her
right.
breasts are always out for some reason. Anyway, gotta love Cynthia Rothrock on social media. Gotta love Cynthia Rothrock. She's either at some gala celebrating her for being amazing, or she's diving with whales while diffusing mines in Ghana or something.
Right,
Anyway,
right.
she's or making straight to video Nevsky movies.
Right.
But the problem I have with them is they're keeping these people gainfully employed, which is great. But there's no effort whatsoever. I mean, even forget it if you can't do, explosions to the same level or whatever. But there's no effort even to do lighting, to kind of, figure out what your soundtracks are going to be, to kind of employ these people to play to their strengths rather than their weaknesses. I don't know. PM just had, and also to have, most of these straight to video movies now, and you probably know this better than I do, but they'll have some big thing to hook you right at the beginning, and then nothing for like 75 minutes, and you're like, I really just watched Nevsky sit around in a warehouse and talk to some other Russian broad that no one's ever heard of in thick accents about some spy plot that I couldn't give. I mean, I stopped listening 5 minutes into the film, and you expect me to know who, Humgrade from the underground, spy ring or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to find Humgrade. Listen, I don't know what you're talking about, and nobody cares. And then suddenly shit starts blowing up again, and Don the Dragon Wilson shows up, and I'm like, well, that could have been a 5-minute film.
Right.
And that's what I don't like about it. And it bothers me because you're not telling me that either Canon or PM Entertainment, both of whom were, or certainly Mary was, of the PM immigrants who came to America and just figured it out, and developed into these incredible, I think, sort of filmmaking powerhouses. You're not telling me that you can't do that today. You're not telling me that with the cheap resources, you don't have to pay your cameras very much. You don't have to pay for editing very much. You have to, all you would have to pay for is obviously the permits to shut down a street somewhere and enough fucking C4 to blow a hole in whatever B road the council have allowed you to blow up. And then you just throw a car through it. That's all you have to do. And believe me, that's not that expensive to do. Back in the day, it was more expensive to shoot film. That was fucking thousands of dollars, like a reel of film, just to fucking shoot the thing. Now you can shoot it for free. $500 and any camera in the high street will fucking shoot a 4K movie for you. Right. So don't tell me you can't afford to throw a burning car through a building. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's a good place for us to because I think what's going on in England is at least, Jesse V. Johnson, he's at least doing that still. Isaac Florentine, James Nunn, they're at least giving you a little bit of that. But I think it's almost like with the Randall Emmetification of direct to video, it's just like, let's get in and out of here for as little as we can, and I can take as much money for myself as I can and skimp on all the rest of it. And yeah, we're the ones who suffer, but we might be the ones who suffer with the modern stuff, but we've got this whole wealth of this older stuff that we can go to. And I do think that's probably part of the problem. It's like with my site, I probably need to do more of this stuff and less of the new stuff, because I'm just giving the new stuff more publicity or whatever.
Right.
And people generally don't care as much about the new stuff either. It's like they want to know about, what is this PM Entertainment? What is T-Force? I've seen T-Force.
Also, I've started to notice in the Wingshausen movies I'm watching, Vidmark is another one. You see Vidmark on a label. They're not all winners, but there's some gems in those Vidmark distribution tapes. First Republic is another one. They can be a bit dodgy, but sometimes a First Republic movie pays off dividends. It's fantastic.
Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah. Well, John, as we're wrapping up here, anything that you wanted to plug? I know you got a few different things going on.
What do I have going on? I mean, no, I mentioned the podcast at the beginning. So you've got the After Movie Diner and the Cinema Beef podcast. That's really going on. I am writing a lot of songs, so please do follow me at Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixtures, because there may or may not be an album coming very soon.
Yeah.
And
the show that you do on Instagram.
Yes. So we might be taking that to the next level and actually starting a Twitch channel. We might become Twitchers. We might become VHS Twitchers and play it to Facebook and Instagram and Twitch and use our StreamYard. So we might be going StreamYard next week. I'm going to see if I can get Scott Toombs on a video call before then. But yes, I do VHS Picks of the Week Wednesday nights live on Instagram at 9:45 p.m. with the Analog Basement. And I am Be Kind Movie Vault, because it is my VHS movie store that I own here in New Milford, Connecticut. So if you're in the Nutmeg State and you're in the west end of the Nutmeg State, come visit Be Kind Movie Vault. which is the lower level of the hunt, 20 Bank Street, New Milford, Connecticut. Thanks so much, Matt. This has been an absolute thrill. This has been our funniest episode. I cannot wait to listen this back. I know it was long, so it's going to take you a while to edit, and I'm really sorry about that. Yeah. But I, for one, will listen to this episode and fucking love every minute of it. Thank you so much.
I don't edit much. I'm just going to edit out the time when we take a break, and it's going to probably sound odd to people because it's going to cut from one thing to another, but may put a commercial for my book in between that part.
But cut out the bit where my voice wouldn't clear and I was coughing a lot.
If I catch that out. But it wasn't a loud cough. Usually it's like when it's a loud one, I might edit it out. Okay. But no, I had a ton of fun as well. This was a great time, and we'll definitely talk again soon. And thank you everybody for listening. We'll be back soon. Bye everyone.
Direct to video, direct to